Bam, we're live. Missed you guys yesterday. Whoo. Good morning. Good morning, Miss Kelly, Sabir. Good morning, guys. Rambler, good morning. I tried to sleep in an extra 15 minutes today. When you sleep in an extra 15 minutes, you got to make up for those 15 minutes somewhere else. I don't think I did a very good job. I was still fooling around with my kids and my dog and my Instagram. Good morning, Fanny. Good morning, Marissa. Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Heidi. Hey, Jamie. Hey. Went to a CrossFit competition yesterday. Blair Morrison and Ben Alderman put on this competition. It was cool. The setting was crazy cool. I don't even remember what it was called. Andrew Hiller was there. It's far from my house, man. That's the longest I've been in a car, like, besides my trips to Newport in a long time. Woo! 2.5, 3 hours, 3 hours probably with the stop at the coffee shop. I made that Instagram post about the door. It's this common theme, man, when you're holding a door open for someone who needs the door open for them, or maybe who doesn't. But if you see someone holding a door open and then you go through it and you're an able-bodied person, you got to grab the door from the person. Do not be that person who doesn't grab the door. Don't be a douche. It's one of those things that I see over and over and over in my life. I'm like, you know what? It's time. It deserves a post. NorCal Classic. All right. Yeah, that's where I went. I went to the NorCal Classic. Yeah. It was cool. It was really cool. It was by a body, it was at a state park. I really enjoyed it. Lots of cool people there. I met Pool Boy for the first time. He's cool. Mellow energy. Way more mellow than I thought. What's up, dude? Bryce, hi.
How are you? Can you hear me okay?
I can.
What's up?
Nate, I can hear you perfect.
Hang on 1 second. I'm trying to...
Yeah, take your time.
Now can you hear me?
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Tap your mic. It sounds like it's your mic. No, it's not your mic.
You got me now? Hello?
I do. I'm just not sure if it's actually that mic that's working. I can hear you, but when you tap that mic...
Let me double check. Standard audio. Yeah, I got you. It is this mic.
Okay. Sweet. Is that the spot that you do the Invictus Mindset podcast?
Wait, now you got me.
Oh, yeah, baby. Right? Yeah, now you sound like a grown-ass man. There we go.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me on.
What's up? Often I'll call Hiller and I'll be like, hey, dude, are you in the bathroom? He's like, dude, how did you know? I'm like, bro, it sounds like a bathroom. It has it, and it sounded like you were in a bathroom, but now you're not.
Nice little echo for you. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a place that he likes to play a little bit.
In the bathroom?
Yeah.
He's always working, whether he's in the bathroom or not.
Makes sense, man. Well, you got a cool little studio back there. What you got behind you?
Yeah, I like this place. It's still a work in motion. There's a chocolate penis back there that Andrew sent me, and then there's a figurine of Tupac, and then the rest are just and there's a picture of my wife that's like hidden because it got covered by the chocolate penis.
So you should put your wife in front, and then just a reminder, you should put your wife in front.
I need you to come here and rework the whole thing. And then I have the WOD zombie cards.
Nice, man. Are those like official now? Are those a thing?
I don't think that they're I mean, they're his, and I think he clears them with the athletes beforehand.
Who's his?
The WOD zombie guy. The WOD zombie guy, I think like he would call you. He'd be like, hey, Bryce, I want to make a card with you on it. And then you'd be like, okay. And then I think, I don't know this, but just from what I've gleaned from just listening to people talk, he then sends the picture and sends the write-up, and he works with, I want to say he works with Tyler Watkins and Brian Friend on it.
Oh, cool. Brian Friend is the man.
Yeah. You know him?
Yeah, he's a good dude. He's been in the space for a while. He's got him and Tommy Marquez, I feel like, have all the data on the CrossFit space.
Yeah. I agree. There's a handful of guys now that it's kind of who really have a handle on the data too. Do you know Chad Schroeder?
I don't. I was gonna say Adrian Conway's done a good job. Khalipa's also done a pretty good job on the ESPN live feed.
I really liked Khalipa and Adrian Conway. I really like them.
Yeah, they I think at semifinals there was something going on with the CrossFit live feed, and they threw those guys on, and they did it, I think, on one of their podcasts, and it was very entertaining. Their banter back and forth was quite comedic. I enjoyed it.
And Khalipa brought the energy.
Dude, that guy always brings the energy.
Yeah,
I love it. He's such a good dude.
How long have you been doing your podcast?
Coming up on 3 years, man. In November will be 3 years. It's been quite the journey.
And do you have a cadence that you stick to?
We try to release at least 1 to 2 a week. We haven't missed a week yet. I'm pumped about that.
Yeah, crazy. And a lot. You've had basically everyone on there. You just had Haley Adams, I saw.
Yeah, she's such a sweetheart. Her growth and trajectory over the challenge that she's overcome in the midst of adversity was really cool. And yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed that one. It was really cool to see, because I've known her for quite some time, and seeing her evolution was quite rad. I hope the audience and people that consumed that episode really saw the growth trajectory. And at the end of the day, I guess that's what we're all trying to do, right? Is find evolution and innovation through doing hard things. And she's the example of that.
Were you nervous to interview her?
I wasn't. I was actually really excited because I met her a long time ago doing a workout with her. And I got to speak with Bijan briefly at semifinals, and he just shared some really cool insight about her. He and I had a great conversation, and when she maneuvered and said she wanted to hop on, like, we had some really good text conversations, and I just felt like it was the right time. Had it happened earlier, potentially, but at that time, it was a really honest conversation that I felt like just kind of happened and unfolded appropriately.
She basically left the scene, right? She pulled out from the games and kind of went underground, right? No one knew. Yeah. And then reemerge. And then we saw glimpses of her, with her baseball hat on at semifinals, right? Some of the footage there. And then she showed up again. And was yours the first podcast she did when she popped back up on
I think so.
Up on the scene? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And I don't know. I do think it's important to note, I don't know if you know this, but my background was high level basketball before CrossFit.
I didn't know that.
And sometimes I think, man, that the world misunderstands that we're all human beings first. And the amount of pressure that's put on some of these young athletes as far as body image, performance, always needing to post and hold themselves to this unrealistic standard it's a little fucking obnoxious, if you ask me. And so I thought that it was actually really cool that she took a step back, because I think there's so many other people that are fighting that same narrative. And for her to be so young and just draw a line in the sand, I thought was really a life-changing opportunity, not just for her, but gives other people permission to be more vulnerable, which I don't know, man. I think that's a really special thing in the world. I mean, you and I could both agree. We've talked to a lot of people over the last few years. Most people are living lives of quiet desperation. And for somebody to stand up and put a helping hand out to be like, nah, we're going to change this narrative, I think is pretty cool.
What do you mean she drew a line in the sand? Give me, what do you mean by that?
Just choosing yourself first and realizing that, hey, my performance metrics are pretty good, but I need to get my mindset right. I need to get my food right. I need to get my lifestyle in order. And I want to use fitness as a tool to enhance the quality of my life, as opposed to allowing fitness to own her. And I thought that it was really cool that she just took ownership, and now fitness serves her life. And we could hear that in the joy in her voice and how she's choosing to live her life now. And I just think that's so special. And hopefully that trickles down in a domino effect to other athletes and other up and comers.
I watch the UFC pretty religiously, and that's another sport where the guys just go out basically in their panties, right? They just and they just get at it, right? And there was a guy. It's interesting. it's a bizarre thing because everyone does want to have this one kind of body, right? And I say one kind, and maybe there's 1,000, but that this one kind of body encompasses those 1,000. And then there's these people who walk out there, and there's this fighter Tai Tuivasa, right? Samoan guy. He's got so much fat on him that like his body will never be like he's damaged his body with all the fat on it. You know, damaged his body. I think it's fair. Anyway, the way he carries himself, it doesn't matter. I never look at him like I never look. I never look at him.
Confidence really is a form of attraction, right? Also, just to note real quickly,
transcends the other stuff. Yeah, I never look at him like a fat guy. I'm like, wow, this is a fucking capable man. Yeah, and everyone loves him, and the crowd goes crazy when he walks in, and yeah, he's all vibe. He's all vibe.
Yeah, it's dope. I also think it's really interesting. Your mind is fascinating to me because I was trying to draw the parallel. I'm like, how is he jumping to the UFC now? And then you reeled it back into body image. That was an interesting segue. Oh. Your mind intrigues me a little bit.
It's just all I watch. When I'm out, all I'm doing is watching bodies. And so if we have this sport where there's these people out there, with one of the cool things about our sport is the same reason why I think it's cool going to the zoo. You get to just see bodies. And at the zoo, you get to see the animals' bodies, and at the sport, you get to go there. But like today, I went to a competition this past weekend, and the first thing I noticed is, wow, all the men at local comps are significantly bigger than the men at the CrossFit Games. They're more muscle-bound men. They're bigger men. They're a little bit slower. Yeah, it was crazy. All of a sudden, Tim Paulson, who I think of as a huge man, there were 50 guys there bigger than him. You know what I mean? And
I think it's interesting, though, because there's a couple things to take away from that, and that is at the CrossFit Games, you're definitely zoomed out a little bit, right? You're not as close and up and personal like you are at a local comp. And then simultaneously at a local comp, the well-roundedness is probably depreciated a little bit of the athlete.
Yes.
So a lot of those 100%. Guys might just be like narrow focused on lifting or functional bodybuilding of some sort.
And it's a lot of guys from that field who are ready to do CrossFit too, right? It's the guy who was the lineman who now wants to get into CrossFit. There's definitely a ton of that going on. And then when you so at the end of the day, you could be someone who's chasing and probably defeats the purpose of having this conversation to this. You could be someone who's chasing Noah Olson's body, who appears just to have a perfect physique, right? Or do you try to just ignore that? Just do your best, do what makes you perform at the highest level, and then just try to be cool and confident?
I mean, I would argue that his physique is fantastic for him and his genetics and the life that he wants to live. But I don't know that everybody wants that much muscle. I don't know that everybody is in pursuit of that. I think that's a societal norm that can gently be deconstructed, where some people might want more of a functional type body that isn't quite as muscle bound. They might want more mobility or the ability to attack endurance sports. So I think it's case dependent on the lenses that you possess. I mean, shout out to Noah Olson. That dude is rad. I've spent some time with him in the last few months, and he is all positive and really amazing, and a good friend of Chandler who trains with us at Invictus. But I also don't think everybody has the same goals, and I would actually challenge that.
Let me rephrase it. I like personally, I like the body, the 145-pound emaciated Brad Pitt or Conor McGregor. I like Conor McGregor at 145, cheeks sunk in, looks like a fucking dog that, like, you know what I mean? Ribs showing. But I'm not saying that everyone necessarily wants that body, but it's not everyone wants a Ferrari, but everyone recognizes a Ferrari.
Yeah.
So Conor McGregor might be Conor McGregor might be a McLaren. Noah Olson might be a Ferrari. Bryce Mitchell might be. Bryce Smith might be. Do you know who Bryce Mitchell is?
No, who's that?
I won't confuse you with him again. Yeah, UFC fighter.
Oh, nice.
Bryce Smith might be a Bentley, but we all recognize these as fantastic cars, is what I'm saying. But there are people who just aren't going to have, their bodies just aren't going to look like fantastic cars.
Yeah, totally. I don't necessarily think they're fantastic cars because I don't really fit in any of those.
Right. How tall are you?
6'4". It was funny when we crossed paths because I probably look smaller on the screen here. So when you saw me, you're like, "Oh,
Dude.
whoa! I was not expecting you to look like that."
And your voice is so calm.
Yeah, man. A lot of meditation and sauna and ice goes into this.
Yeah, you have a very, very and your energy and presence when I met you was different than the energy that I got from you from the podcast. By
Interesting.
no means worse, just more powerful.
Huh.
Like I
Interesting.
knew, you know what I mean? Like on the show, you're kind of like there's I don't know, an equanimity to you. And when I saw you in person, and granted, it was in Vendor Village and there were thousands of people everywhere.
Yeah, totally.
But it was you're bigger than life in person, and you don't seem like that on the show necessarily. On the show, maybe it's more like you're being more demure to let your guests shine.
Yeah, I think it's purposeful for sure. I think a lot of life is yin to the yang. It's masculine plus feminine energy, and how you choose to balance that based on the given scenario. So being able to sometimes take the lead of a conversation when I need to, and then other times maneuver myself out of the way and let the guest take the spotlight so that they can authentically share their story. It's fun, man. And I think that goes back to team sports, right? There's going to be certain events, you know, when I was competing for Team Invictus, there's certain things that I'm like, hey, this is my thing. This is my jam. This is my contribution to the team. I got to go do my job. And then there's other times where I'm like, all right, like a little bit of damage control for me. I got to set my teammates up for success. And that's when I kind of take a back seat. And I think that humbly translates to so many different elements of life. So I appreciate you recognizing that, man. It's a cool attribute that I try to foster. What you got there? What kind of coffee?
Paper Street.
Nice, man.
I don't know a lot about you. I almost know nothing about you.
Nice. You want me to story tell for you?
Yes, but I want to guess some shit.
All right, go ahead. You're going to be wrong, but that's okay.
You are odd.
This is true.
And so that means I think one of your parents or your parents are a foreigner, or English wasn't your first language.
It's actually really interesting you say that. Both of my parents are American.
Oh shit.
But my grandparents passed away my grandparents passed away when I was really young. And so a woman watched my brother and I from Guatemala, and we refer to her as Nana. She's such a sweetheart. She is an angel on this earth. And ironically, I learned Spanish before English up until the age of 4. And then at 4, my mom was like, open your mouth. And I didn't understand until she said, abra la boca. And I was like, oh, I could do that.
Wow.
And so it was an interesting experience. I think I actually think in Spanish first because of that. And then ironically, right at the tail end of college, I got an opportunity to go play professional basketball in Sweden. And so I might have picked up a little bit of a European dialect being over there. I think I over-enunciate consonants probably.
What are your parents? Would you know what ethnicity you are?
Probably some sort of Eastern European mix and a little bit British.
And where was
100% guess? I've never done the 23andMe stuff.
If you do it, use a fake name.
Yeah, right.
That would be my my advices. Hey, where were you raised? What state? What city in the United States?
I'm born and raised in LA, man.
Wow.
Growing up, I was white boy. I was the only white guy on the majority of my basketball teams from the inner city of LA. I went to a pretty notable, prestigious sports school, Taft High School. Where slot receiver Steve Smith played. He was the slot receiver with Eli Manning. My buddy Malcolm Smith, we grew up together. He played in the NFL for like 10 years, and he was the Super Bowl MVP for the Seahawks. And then former point guard Jordan Farmar, who played with the Lakers for a little bit. And we've had some good athletes, man. It's been cool to kind of rub elbows with some of those guys. There's an NBA player now, Spencer Dinwiddie, who's a good friend of mine that played at Taft as well.
Heidi Kroom, fake name doesn't matter, Sevi. They have your DNA, dude. The thing is, Heidi, if your uncle has killed someone and they can track it back to your name, then they can somehow triangulate on your uncle, and you don't want your uncle to get in trouble. That's my take on it.
It's so interesting how people love chiming in on the randomness of conversations.
Oh yeah, the chat's great. Do you do live shows?
I don't. I'd love to try though. I think it'd be really fun.
Yeah. I don't even I have this crew in here that are like co-hosts, and I don't even some people for a long time people thought I read the comments first and then pulled them up. But I don't do that. I just know Heidi in the chat, and I know usually she says something funny and insightful at the same time.
Nice.
So I just grab it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then I'm like, okay, just roll the dice. We're all gonna see this.
You know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, Robbie Myers, we're here. Okay, we see you.
Love it.
No, that is not true. Do not listen to Audrey. The chat is the best part. No. The guest is the best part.
There you go.
Are you married?
No.
Kids?
No. Just my little fur baby.
Yeah. And how old are you?
How old do I look?
27.
I wish, man. I'm 33.
33. Oh, that's a good age. I found CrossFit at 34.
Nice, man. I feel like I've been in CrossFit for a real long time. Almost over a decade now, man. September 1st was my 9-year anniversary at Invictus. It's kind of cool.
Holy cow.
Yeah, I've been there a long time.
I meant to add, so you're friends with CJ. You know CJ well.
CJ is a phenomenal human being. He's grown me from my entire coaching experience, it seems. You know, I've had some cool mentors before that when I was a strength coach at Cal State Northridge, but CJ is phenomenal. He's really done a cool job teaching, inspiring, motivating, mentoring. He's a good dude, man.
Will you pass him my phone number?
Yeah.
And be like, hey, there's this guy, Sevan, and he would like you to text him, and he'd like to have you on his podcast. I DM'd him, but there's someone told me yesterday there's no way he's seen his DMs.
He's so busy. He's so focused on business development and his kids and trying to experience all the things that life has to offer. And so I admire it, man. He's an awesome father, and watching his kids evolve and grow up is very cool. So I'm pumped to know that I can always give him a quick little phone call if I need advice or, to catch up on life.
When I do podcasts with athletes and with a variety of people, I'll usually watch podcasts they've been on before and then try to just plagiarize from them, or like take a question someone asked and maybe go deeper. So if you were interviewing Danielle Brandon and she told you she got in a car accident, I would then be like, okay, write that down, and then try to ask her, hey, can you tell me the details of what happened in the car accident? Like,
smart.
I'll pick stuff that I want to know more about, right?
Yeah, totally.
So because of that, I've ended up listening to, and that's the only reason why I listen to podcasts usually. Usually my go-to is listen to audiobooks. But because of that, I've listened to a shitload of podcasts to do work. And I've listened to Invictus Mindset podcast quite a bit. And that's how I came across you.
Cool, man.
But I would trip on just the way you deal with your people. I see you go into that mode here sometime. It's almost like, I'm like, how is he? It's almost like he's reading. How is he coming up with these words, and where is he pulling them from? And
I think it's like you. So I put a sauna and a cold plunge in my house, and I'm a big audiobook guy. And so I definitely lean on quotes and phrases and things that, because I'm in the sauna, I'm not usually writing things down, but like certain things just like stick in my mind, and it almost feels like a photographic memory on occasion. But it is a unique experience, man. I'm one of those people that I really do think that I try to be a sponge, and people out there are so much smarter than me. So I just try to absorb things that they share, and like, that resonates. That segues really well with that particular guest. And, yeah, I mean, I humbly try to grab from different arenas of life, toss it all into a blender, and hopefully share a digestible smoothie for people when I converse with them.
And you don't get too animated. You stay very, I don't know what the word is, equanimous, maybe? Is that the word? You have equanimity.
I had this coach, and he always said, never get too high, never get too low. And so, when things go good, this too shall pass. When things go bad, this too shall pass. And so, life's going to be a little bit of a roller coaster, but if you react or respond or allow your emotions to get in there too much, inevitably, like your frequency is going to be a little bit volatile. And so, I try to be as even keel as possible, and hopefully that allows other people to lean in and feel safe and supported in the midst of adversity, man.
You're going to love this. This is off subject, and we will come back to where I was going with that. My son broke his shin last week.
Oh, brutal. Dude, I'm a big fan of your kids.
Oh, thank you. They're cool.
I see all the parkour stuff that they're doing, and I'm blown away. I'm sorry that he broke his shin. That sucks.
Yeah, broke his shin and a long break. It's like in the X-ray, it's brutal. Anyway, and he doesn't have a cast on yet. They're waiting for the swelling to go down. And last night he was in bed, in my bedroom with my wife, and it was probably like 3:30 in the morning. And he's been talking in his sleep incessantly since he broke his shin. And about 3:45 in the morning, I hear him go, anicca. And that's what that's the Buddhist term for this too shall pass. And my wife goes, whoa, that was weird. Did you hear that? And I'm like, yeah, I heard that. But
that's so cool.
I mean, I didn't even know I was awake to hear it. I don't even know if she's awake, but I heard
that one down. That's a good one.
My 6-year-old say anicca. And I think it's ANICCA, anicca. Nice. And I was like, holy shit, where did he learn that? You know?
Wow.
And I just know it just from just whatever, probably something.
That's one of those things to me that I feel like there's something to the human experience that doesn't quite meet the eye. There's certain things that just happen that you can feel, or things that just kind of diffuse out into the universe, and I think that's one of them. That's quite fascinating, and hopefully he can live that and realize that this injury will pass and he'll get back to doing all the things that he loves.
Yeah. A rambler, the pain makes you go through some shit. Yeah. He broke his shin, no narcotics, no nothing. Yeah, I saw him go into shock. He pulled out of it. It was crazy. Because you're so mellow, I cracked a joke on my podcast. I'm like, hey, dude, you guys got to see this guy over at Invictus Mindset, Bryce Smith. He's a fucking AI. There's no way he's real.
I know. I've had a few people screen record it and send it over to me, and I think it's hilarious.
And so when I was in front of the Paper Street coffee booth at the CrossFit Games this year, and
right next to RX Mark here.
Yes. Dave's company, right?
Yep.
And my kids use those ropes. He got my kids some ropes. They're great.
Yeah, they're great people.
And I don't know what you said, but I turned around and I'm basically staring at your belly button. And then I look up and it took my brain what seemed like 10 minutes to figure out who you were, which probably was more like 1 second, but it was pretty funny. What did you say to me? You said, I'm not an AI.
Yeah. I was like, hey man, I'm Bryce. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. That was classic. When you saw that I did that, was it offensive at all? Or did you find it funny? Or
at first I didn't totally get it.
Okay.
I wasn't exactly sure why, right? AI is such a broad and inclusive term. And going back to the anicca, it's like, I genuinely think everybody's striving to do their best. And so I don't really get offended, man. In basketball, there was so much shit talking that like, if you get offended by everything people say, you're in for a short ride. And I wanted to ride the wave as long as I could. I heard this funny thing from Rogan one time. He goes, words are like noises coming from a mouth. When you go to the zoo and you see animals making noise, you don't get offended. And I always thought that was a cool way to take perception to people's verbiage, where it's just noises coming from a mouth. And on occasion, there's going to be word vomit based on stress or emotional regulation. And so I've always just like assumed positive intent and then explored it deeper just out of sheer curiosity.
I like that. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it was Rogan who said this too, but I heard someone say something along the lines of like the sounds we're all wind benders. We're like magicians, cool. Right? We blow air out our mouth and then we bend it to make sounds.
Yeah.
I was like,
that's actually really cool.
Yeah. What a trip. Hey, and for me, and I wonder if this is different. Were you always handsome growing up?
Oh, thanks, man. You're going to make me blush. I don't know, man. I think my parents are good looking people, and I try to be consistent with taking care of myself. So maybe some people think I'm handsome, maybe other people don't. I'm not really sure.
What do you think about this thing? You've heard of short man's complex. What do you think about this thing, tall man syndrome, where good looking tall men have had it so good that when they get older, they're more sensitive to things and put downs because it was easier to them. You know what I mean? They don't have, like, for me, I'll take attention any way I can get it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I'm an alchemist. Like, you could be sending me negative energy and I'll be like, thank you. And I'll just convert it into like just energy.
You know what the irony of this is?
Yeah.
In CrossFit and in the world, I'm big.
Yeah.
But in basketball, dude, I was small.
Oh.
So it's like,
but still good looking.
Only on Monday mornings, man. Only on Monday mornings.
Why is that? The rest of the week you're beat up?
I guess so. I'm coming off that Sunday rest day, just feeling good, excited to attack the week. But yeah, man, my perception of reality associated to size is probably skewed a little bit because I was used to looking up to big dudes in basketball and just trying to hang on by a thread as they're flying above the rim and I'm shooting threes.
No, Sevi, tall guy stuff is that they are tall and good looking and therefore can have zero emotional intelligence and be a jerk. Wow.
She went for it.
Wow, she did.
We can play the game of emotional intelligence. I think I can hang a little bit there.
Tell me, what's emotional intelligence? Tell me what that is.
I think it's just cognizant behavior, or I guess cognizant awareness associated with maybe zooming out and being able to take perception as to what other people are going through. I think it's the ability to meet people where they're at, the ability to possess empathy and hold space and not always try to problem solve or fix. Correct me if I'm wrong. You can throw it into the chat, but that's kind of how I understand that term. And by all means, I'm open to sharpening that sword too, if it's something I'm misunderstanding.
I like that. I like all those components that you said that make up emotional intelligence. When I think of emotional intelligence, I think of it as not. I think one of the ways you have high emotional intelligence is to not read into things. A rhetorical you. So if someone were to say, I don't like you, someone of high emotional intelligence would still be like, they don't live in a world of duality. They wouldn't jump to that person dislikes me. They'd be like, oh, Bryce doesn't like me. I wonder if he loves me. You know what I mean? It still leaves all the options open. Like you still, and then that's how you hold space also, right? That's one of the.
I'd also say it's the observation of more than just the words, right? It's listening to the tone. It's observing body language. It's taking in the frequency at which they communicate. I think there's a wide array for us to digest the communication strategy, more so than just the words spoken. The spoken word can be powerful, but it can also be manipulated in different ways. So I think really leaning into all the other attributes that the person is sharing can also be a form of emotional intelligence. And I'll share this quick story with you. So I do private coaching at Invictus. And, I'll check in with people in the mornings and I'll text them, hey, how's it going? How's sleep? How's mindset? How's food? How's your family? Things like that is just a general, making sure they know I'm there to co-pilot their journey. And then when they come in for their session, I might be working out or I might be doing pull-ups, but I can see out of the corner of my eye, oh, this person's got a pep in their step today. They're very talkative. Like, looks like they had a good day. We can get after it. And then other people might be wearing a hat, might not be talking much, might be a little bit in their feelings or a little bit frustrated. Maybe parking was a pain in the butt. And so all those things are taken forms for me to be like, oh, one person lies a little bit more on the anxious side. The other person lies maybe more on the depressive side, and just using those things as data inputs to elicit an optimal session for them, where the depressive person needs to get a win. And then the person that's a little bit anxious, we can step on the gas pedal and maybe lift a little bit heavier or integrate a little bit more intensity.
And when you're making those observations, I'm guessing that you're not thinking of them like that either. For you, it's second nature, but for the sake of this podcast, you're putting words to it. Not that it's second. It's still conscious on your part. I'm not saying it's not conscious, but it is second nature. You're making these.
It's become unconscious competence because I've done it for so long now. And that's actually, it relates back to the podcast because like you, I've studied people. I've observed them. I mean, even in basketball, I was watching a lot of game film and things like that. And studying people gives you insight as to how to better orient yourself in relation to them, and how to help, and how to push when you need to push, pull back when you need to pull back, and maybe, hold space like we discussed before when needed.
Have you ever interviewed Laura Horvat?
I haven't. We've messaged back and forth a little bit in the past, but I've not had her on the show. How's she? Besides a hell of an athlete that we got to see this last year, it was impressive, her performance.
Oh God, I don't know I don't even know. Let me come back to her in 1 second. Let me just read this really quick.
Okay.
Pat, I would need more data on her. I needed you to be like, yes, I've interviewed her 3 times. I need more data on her. Patrick Clark, I've met Bryce a few times, and his awareness in his surroundings is amazing. He's constantly processing information from people watching. I wonder also, in the most superficial sense, how if you see stuff that I don't see because you're taller. Do you know what I mean? Like you're in a branch higher in the tree. Like, I see a jaguar coming. Everyone take to the holes. Run to your hole. Jaguar.
It's a high possibility, man. That media area gets quite crowded these days with everybody. And so I might be able to see a few things that you don't see. The air is a little thinner though, so I might have some shortness of breath.
Yeah. So going back to the alchemy thing about if someone's, I'm okay with people being mean to me and rude to me and processing that and making that okay. She does something to me that I'm struggling to process. I cannot.
Who's she?
Laura Horvat. I can't tell if she's being sarcastic. I can't tell if it's just a massive, huge cultural leap I'm making. I can't tell if truly she's disgusted by me. I can't tell if she's flirting with me. I can't tell what not flirting in the sexual sense, but just like, doing the human dance.
You know what I honestly think?
I just cannot figure her out, but I'm fascinated by it. And I want more. You know what I mean? It's like black licorice, or like putting that battery on your tongue, like to check a 9-volt battery.
Never done it.
You never done that? So if you have a 9-volt battery, you put it on your tongue to see if it's still got a charge. That's like Laura Horvat. I'm like, I'm going to go try one more time. And every time I'm like, oh yeah,
I think it's a little bit of it's a challenging scenario, because I would probably guess that all of your interactions with her are at main events where she's probably performing. And so going back to what I was saying before, I try to think about assuming positive intent for everybody that I interact with. But I also provide a little bit of grace at competition where it's like, that person might be standoffish, or that person's got narrow focus. Like, I know for me, like, there are moments where I'm so focused on the craft that I'm not as personable as I might be on the podcast, or I might be doing something else. And that's not a negative or a dislike to other people. It just means that, like, I'm practicing the art of presence and being where my feet are. And hopefully that doesn't come off in a negative way, but I'm not in control of that. And I think she views it potentially in that same boat where, I mean, she's narrow-minded in that instance of like, hey, I want to win the CrossFit Games. I'm trying to do my absolute best to die for points, as Justin Medeiros would say. And, she did that this last year. It was pretty cool. I'm sure she'd hop on and spitball with you though. I think it'd be fun.
She's been on. She was on. She came on. It was an hour and a half of, I just need I needed another at bat. You know what I mean?
Nice, man.
Yeah.
You've had like everybody on. It's pretty cool.
I try. Sevi, can you have Bryce say, hasta la vista, baby. Hasta la vista.
Cave Dastro. That's quite the name.
That's right.
Hasta la vista, baby.
There you go. There you go. I hope it was worth the $1.99.
You were with Dave yesterday, right?
Yeah. He got a new tree. It was cool. 2 nights ago, he called me and he said, hey, I'm going to this competition. You should come. I got a new truck. I'm going to drive out there. I'm like, I have a podcast in the morning. I can't. And then I called him back. I'm like, hey, you think I'm an idiot for not going? I go, dude. He's like, get out of your fucking comfort zone. Of course you're a fucking idiot. Go out, walk around, say hi to people, and then we'll get back in the car and drive back. And he was right.
That's cool, man. Was it fun up there?
It was cool. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Blair, do you know who Blair Morrison is and Ben Alderman?
I do. I don't know them personally, but I'm aware of who they are.
Of them. Okay. Yeah. So it was their event, cool event at a state park, right by a lake. Felt like the games in 2009.
Oh, that's cool. That old school vibe.
Yeah, thousands of people there, pop-up tents everywhere, people swimming in the lake. It was rad. It was really, really, really cool. Lots of cool people. I watched Dave get kicked out of some lady kicked him out of the athlete area. That made me that made me pretty happy.
Dave.
And I would see Dave get kicked out of areas at the CrossFit Games. You know what I mean? Like some security guard, like whose outfit's 12 sizes too big, kick him out. And Dave would just wait till someone came along and like was like, "This is Dave." And he would always be chill. But I could tell yesterday at this event when they kicked him out, he's just like, "What? Like what? Like how are you?" Like he wasn't even doing anything. He wasn't even anywhere like precarious.
Yeah.
But this lady came and kicked him out. And I always just think it's funny. It's like, dude.
Hey, that's great. They're taking their job seriously.
Yeah.
That's a good place to be.
You started the podcast. Why did you start the podcast?
Oh, I was hoping you'd ask that, man. So in 2018,
someone asked me the other day and I was tripping on that. I'm like, well, that's a weird question. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's actually one of my favorite questions. In 2018, I was training for the CrossFit Games. Well, actually at regionals at the time. And I got a phone call from my sister, and she was pretty distraught. And she said that our dad was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. I didn't quite know how to handle that at the time. So I walked outside of Invictus out of a morning training session. I just bawled my eyes out on the curb. And at that time, I made the decision, like, you know what? Like, I'm going to coach until 8:30 at night. Then I'm going to drive up to LA and spend as much time with my dad as possible. That's what I did. And if he was asleep, I'd go in the hospital parking lot and I'd train. I was messaging Jason Khalipa at the time, like, hey, man, like, how'd you do it with Ava? You know, what movements do you suggest? And he was awesome. He responded to the DMs, and mad respect to Jason for that. And when my dad would wake up, Sevan, I'd look at him. And there'll come a point where your kids do this. But I looked at my dad and I was like, man, I know this guy's my dad, but he had this whole life before I ever existed. So I was like, Dad, how was Vietnam? Like, how was it dating mom? Like, what was it like doing real estate stuff and contractor work and working out? And I just asked him about life, and I got to know him as a man. He was only supposed to live 4 months, ended up living 12. And he taught me a few different really important things, but one that I think is cool for you and your listeners. And that is, we need 3 things: something to do, someone or something to love, and something to look forward to. And he and I both looked forward to those chats. And Sevan, this is going to give you goosebumps, but at the 2018 regionals, I was on Team Invictus, and we were sitting in 7th place going into the final workout. And I think the workout was something along the lines of like team of 4, 144 strict handstand push-ups, and then like a distance walking lunge with the worm. And it was funny because in training, all my teammates would get pissed at me because my steps were so much longer than theirs. And they were like, God, I'm pulling a groin, like, stop. And anyway, we came off the wall first. I had Jen Ryan, Tammy Wildgoose, and Ricky Moore on my team. They're like the best at handstand push-ups. So my only job on the wall was to not screw it up. And then Ricky lunged on the way down, and then we flipped around to lunge back. And we needed to get 1st or 2nd place in order to qualify for the games. And I was in front lunging back, and I was like, guys, we got to take Bryce steps or we're not going to make it. And so my teammates sacrificed. They were basically pulling their groin every step. And long story short, we qualified. And my dad was watching on the live feed his last workout he ever saw, and he passed away a few days later.
Wow.
And,
wow.
Yeah, it was a very unique experience. And then I went to the 2018 games, caught a 275 snatch weird and tore my left UCL. And it almost felt like life was pushing me a little bit in another direction. And so I remember going to CJ and I was like, hey, man, I think I need to go on a listening tour. I want to chat with people way smarter than me. And I realized in that moment that everybody has a story we know absolutely nothing about. So you can see it gently behind me. It's a little Banksy, the little boy peeking behind the curtain. Mm-hmm. And honestly, man, that's what I try to do in connecting with people on the podcast is peel back the layers of the onion, peel back the curtains a little bit to share their authentic truth. Because so many people are known for their LinkedIn profile or whatever they show on Instagram or their Instagram bio. And I'm like, no, there's so much more to the human experience than that. And I try to connect with people and create a safe space for their light to shine. And it's more about being REAL and less about the REEL. It's something for me that like, it had a lot of meaning for me And so hopefully, it bleeds through in the passion and the way I'm able to converse with the special guests that I connect with. I appreciate the question too.
Who was do you remember who your first guest was?
CJ was. Yeah.
Wow.
CJ was my first one. And, he helped support that journey. And, now we're getting ready to evolve the project a little bit. It's going to move a little bit away from Invictus, and it's going to mature. And he's excited to be a part of that, and I'm excited to be a part of that. And it's a really cool endeavor. At that time, we created the hashtag SmithStrong, and it was all about, not so much the personal name of Smith, but smithing is a craftsperson that's, really trying to make something with an anvil. And, it's something around the concept that, I think we're all smiths, and smiths build things, smiths get the job done. And I think that it's something that really stands out from that time, and it's time for the project to evolve a little bit.
How many times has CJ been on?
A few times. We started a cool thing called Free Flow Friday, and this was in the past. We didn't keep up with it too much, but yeah, we've had him on probably 5 or 6 times. And he's fun. He's fascinating. His mind is impressive, man. See, you talk about being even keel and the ability to manage peaks and valleys of life. That dude can do
it. Speaking of Free Flow Fridays, I suspected. I often stress about people who are going to come on. Pretty good. Every morning I have this. Every night when I go to bed, and then every morning I woke up, I have this stress, like this thread of stress. And last night when I knew you were going to be on, I did not have a thread of stress, which is kind of weird because I don't know you at all. But I just figured, oh, this guy can hang, right? Because I've listened to so many of your podcasts. Yeah. And so I felt like, okay, I don't normally free flow podcasts like this. I usually have a very here's 10 things, or let me rephrase that. I free flow podcasts, but I don't come into them planning to free throw. I'd say more than free flow. I'd say 50% of them or more, they end up free flowing, but I'd never plan on it. I always come in with the plan. And this one I was like, all right, no plan. Me and this dude are just going to hang. I did that with Fluffy Duck too. Do you know who that is? Josh Pritt?
Yeah. He's got some cool content. He makes me laugh.
Yeah, when he came on, I'm just like, all right, fuck it. I hope this dude can just flow. When you say it's going to evolve, what do you mean? What can you superficially, is there something, a new studio or we're gonna co-host or?
No, we're just going to rebrand it. I'm looking to spread my wings a little bit with, I love having CrossFit guests on, but I definitely want to lean into talking to a lot of my friends that are in the NBA, the NFL. I love talking to scientists and getting into some of the fun, controversial topics. And I think it's just an opportunity to spread my wings and evolve to the next chapter. I've always had this entrepreneurial song inside. And man, it just feels like the right time to kind of help that project float to the surface a little bit and do what I want with it. Trim some of the fat, add certain things, take certain things away, have some fun friends that can maneuver certain things and help make the project a little bit more personal, especially since it has so much meaning. And I'll still be a part of the Invictus community, still coaching there and still loving every bit of them. And have you ever read the Invictus poem? It's actually really cool.
No.
You've probably seen the main phrase though, like I'm the master of my fate and I'm the captain of my soul.
Yes. I've seen it on a shirt.
Yeah. And I mean, it just goes down to William Ernest Henley, and his body was basically shutting down, and it very much relates, since you're an audiobook listener, it very much relates to Viktor Frankl and his book Man's Search for Meaning. Between stimulus and response, there's a space, and within that space is the power to choose. And yeah, man, I just think that, as I mentioned previously, so many people are living lives of quiet desperation, and I don't want to live in mediocrity. And so kind of taking the podcast the direction that I want to take it, and incredibly thankful for the supporters that helped get it off the ground about 3 years ago.
Are you going to keep the name?
No.
No, you're not.
No, we're going to change the name.
Do you have any concerns about that?
I don't think so, man. I'm just at a season now where there's so much meaning and there's so much love and connection with people that will always be a part of Invictus and share their truth and share their messaging. But I definitely want to relate it back to the Smith component. So it will be rebranded the All Smith Project.
What about all of the, God, once again, superficially speaking, will you keep it on the same host as so it'll just keep adding on to that? So you won't throw away all the people who already subscribe to your podcast?
Nah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This makes me very nervous. Here's why. This is a really slow game.
Yeah.
The podcast game.
Mm-hmm.
Someone explained it to me like this. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't care if it's true. I like thinking about it like this. Basically, we're putting out into the world 90-minute content or longer, and we're asking people to listen to it. And why the fuck would they listen to it if we first haven't given them like 1 minute or 3 minute or 10-minute content to get them hooked in? And I'm just not really doing that. So it's a slow game. We do this. We're asking them to commit to it. And so if every week we put on 2 new subscribers, it's a win. Yeah. It's a win. It's a win. And then the second year, if you put on 3 new subscribers every week, it's a win, right? Yeah, and then totally. And then by the 10th year, if you're putting on 10 new subscribers every day, because it's crazy wins. And I don't think anyone made it overnight. Like every single person who quote unquote made it, and by made it I just mean like they could buy a house, let's say, right? Yeah, totally. And they got a credit card that's always at 0, right? There's no one who made it overnight. They all put in there's no 10 years. You know what I mean? Like people like Jake Paul and Logan Paul made it overnight. And then you look into their history and they were like little boys when they started their commitment. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, wow. It's seed planting. It's authenticity. It's consistency. It's trying to create and elicit an experience that's maybe different than other podcasts. And but quite it's making me nervous that you're going to start over. It's just making me like, what are you going to like? What if you lose that base? Maybe I will, but it's a risk that I'm willing to take now because I don't want to sit on a park bench at 85 years old and tell the story of what I could have done. Oh, for sure. And have the song inside, right? Like when I lost my dad in 2018, it gets you to start thinking about your own mortality. And you think to yourself like, hey, what are the gifts that I possess? When you go through life things, all of a sudden, when you get out of that emotional fog, you put on a set of lenses that elicit your truth and you start operating at the beat of your own frequency. People start recognizing that. And to be quite frank, like I'm not doing this for other people. I'm doing it for me. And I want to elicit cool opportunities and special stories for other people. And I think when you do things for the right reasons, inevitably, like the world takes notice. And I'm not a rocket scientist in the podcast space by any means, but I do what's called gas, and that means I give a shit. And I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to upgrade. I'm trying to share, love, explore, dream, discover. And if I fuck it up, that's okay too, because it's listening to my heart's whisper. And it's in pursuit of my peak expression. And hopefully that bravery and vulnerability bleeds to other people. When you say you're not doing it for other people, I don't believe you. So bear with me here. Let's say, go ahead. What are you going to say? I was going to say that's not why the podcast started. The podcast started for me and then eventually turned into, oh, wow, I can create a safe space for people to authentically share their story and ask questions and find things about their world as to why they are the way they are. So it's become very collaborative where hopefully I can help co-pilot their storytelling journey. But it's also, I guess, a better way of saying it is I'm not doing it for the external validation of others. I'm doing it because I authentically want to be with somebody as they share their truth, which I don't think many people get to share their truth. And I think that there's a different association with that. So I'm happy that you held space for me to articulate that better. I like that. Okay. And what does that what is it what does that mean when someone's truth? What does that mean? To help people articulate their truth?
It's
Is that
not
what you said?
yeah, there's a difference between character and reputation. Character is who you actually are, and reputation is how the world views you.
Mhm.
And I think so much, especially within the CrossFit space, there's a reputation associated with social media specifically. And that might be a part of the story, but hopefully there's more to the story, and there's layers and there's roots that we can explore for people to share the things that maybe most people don't know about them. I mean, I got a message the other day. Most people didn't know that Ariel Lowen trains in her garage at her home, and they were kind of blown away that she wasn't a part of a training camp. And little things like that that come through. Many people didn't know the specificity as to why Haley Adams stepped away. So many people didn't understand some of the depth with some of the guests that we've had on. They just know the surface level stuff that's shown on YouTube and Instagram and Twitter and, I guess now Threads. And so being able to kind of, get the fog out of the mirror a little bit is a fun place to kind of play. You know that.
Yeah, that one, that phrase is weird because I don't have a strong. I haven't been able to digest that the your truth thing. Tell me your truth. Share with me your truth. But when you defined it, now it is palatable for me. I don't think most people use your truth in the way that you just used it. I mean, I accept the way you used it. I wish more people used it the way you used it. I think a lot of people use your truth as a justification for some bullshit that they're thinking. And it's like, hey,
that's fair.
like, that doesn't mean it's true. Like, we all have the truth that our truth is that green means go and red means stop, but that is not fucking true. We have just agreed upon that so fucking we don't get in a car accident on the corner of 35th and Parker, right? I mean,
it's all relative, right? Like, truth is, when I say your truth, it's specific to the individual. We have universal truths,
right?
Which we could probably
or accepted delusions, like rules that we live by to sort of allow the gears of civilization to move forward.
Yeah, and I love challenging those and deconstructing societal norms because let's be honest, Sevan, this entire world is made up. If you zoom out far enough, Earth disappears. And so it's like realizing that and then, making decisions accordingly, I think is a very interesting perspective to possess somewhere in between the ears. And I think it's very healthy and very important for people to question things. And, even if people lie on different sides of spectrums, and that it's not just political, it could be any spectrum. It's just really awesome when you have two people that are malleable enough to think, you know what, I'm going to have this uncomfortable conversation with this other person. And if they possess the ability to have an awesome argument, I might lean a little bit closer to them. But you got to be open-minded enough. And I also think uncomfortable conversations are the secret sauce to move the needle in the right direction. And I wish more people were willing to have them because they might not feel the best, but going back to the this too shall pass thing, your feelings are going to come and go. And so just have the uncomfortable conversation and be open to the fact that we both might learn something from it.
In the presuppositions that come with when you engage in a conversation like with someone is pretty trippy. Like, one of the things that I always forget is that on some level, none of us want to be completely free. And so there's this presupposition that, but in my head, we all want to be free. But even me, myself, there's things that, oh shit, like you want some sort of oppression or control, or like you want some sort of
parameters, maybe
right. But on the other hand, you I guess it's the difference between character and what was the other one? And reputation. Yeah.
Character is who you really are, right?
Yeah.
Who you look at when you're brushing
my reputation is that I really want to be free as fuck. But
what does free mean to you? Like, if you were to define free, how would you categorize free? Because that might be different than how other people
be able to explore anywhere in my mind. You know what I mean? Like I had a flat earther guy on the show, and people get really, really angry when I had a flat earther on, and I realized, oh, it's because they can't go there in their mind, or like people who have strong feelings about abortion. you'll see them like, one person's like, it's killing the baby. The other person, it's like, hey, it's women's rights. And they're complete refusal to look at what the other person is saying.
Yeah.
Or
let me ask you about the flat earther thing.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to outer space?
No, I have not been to outer space.
Most of us haven't, actually.
I mean, I've been in an airplane.
Totally.
Yeah.
Most of us have not been to outer space. We know the narrative that's told to us by the government. We know footage that we've seen. Right. We know science that has been articulated towards us. Yeah. But none of us really know. And I'm not saying the earth is flat. I'm also not saying the earth is round. But possessing that level of malleability of the mind is, I think, something that can positively impact the world, is being open to the conversation. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong, good or bad. I'm just saying it is a possibility. We don't know. We have not seen it with our eyes. There's tons of great arguments, but there's tons of great arguments for lots of things that have been deconstructed over time. So I actually challenge the specificity of that narrative, that people put other people down for asking uncomfortable questions.
And so some people, because they think they want to be free, but even that conversation scares them to the point where they become violent, verbally violent.
Yeah.
And it's wild to me. That, on the other hand, there are people I know who are extremely close-minded, who I love being around because they're great at making fucking decisions. They're so fucking calculated and smart. And they see, well, I'll be like, well, I don't know. And they're like, shut the fuck up, get in the car, we're going. You know what I mean? And I'm
it's a really good point.
Exploring the possibilities. I have tons of guy friends who've sabotaged great relationships with women because they're like, I just can't see myself marrying her, or she's going to move away in 6 months. I'm like, motherfucker, go love her with all your heart and get hurt. Like, what do you mean? Go get her. What are you talking about? Chase that shit down.
Yeah. Totally,
what if she moves? She's going back to the Ukraine in a month. So what? We could die tomorrow. Fucking get crazy.
They gotta listen to, like I said before, the heart's whisper, man. If it lights your heart on fire, you got to go for it.
Yeah. It's a
Hey, just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Why'd you start your podcast?
In the most like gross sense, like, I don't know, superficial sense, it was a convergence of Matt Souza, the owner of CrossFit Livermore, who I'd met a few times, but I didn't know so well, and Dave Castro and my wife, all saying things to me. Basically, Souza's like, hey, you should start a podcast again. He called me out of the blue. I didn't know really who he was. I just met him a couple of times. And I was like, no, thanks. And he's like, what would it take for you to start a podcast? And I go, if someone paid me $500,000 a year, I'll do a podcast. And he didn't even flinch. That was like my way of saying, go away. And then he kept calling me and bugging me and like asking me about it. And then he came to my house and visited me once. And it's a long drive. It's like 70 or 80 miles, couple hour drive through the Bay Area. And then my wife's like, hey, you always say that the world is conspiring to make you succeed. Cause I really do feel that at every turn, the world's like giving me shit. Mm-hmm. And she goes, and you're not listening to it. You're just telling the world to fuck off by this guy keep telling you he'll do a podcast with you. He'll help you do it. And then Dave's like, hey, dude, you need to fucking listen and do a podcast, and I'll do the first one with you, which was crazy politically. There was a point where I was, to quote the Tommy Tonto, I was persona non grata. Like I was very toxic. It was not someone who anyone should want to be around. And he came to my house and we did a podcast. Dave did.
Wow.
And I was like, fuck. And then Jason Khalipa's like, hey, I want to do one with you too. And then it was like, and then that was it. I started doing it.
Was there a moment in those two conversations with Dave and then with Jason that you were like, oh, this is what I'm meant to do? Like, was there a moment that you were able to like get past the barrier?
No. I mean, I've been interviewing people since I've been 23 with the camera in my hand since the day Apple released Final Cut Pro. I've been talking to people.
Do you remember interviewing me in 2014? You don't?
No. Where at a regional?
I competed for Valley CrossFit early on with Chris Clever, and I was sitting on an assault bike after an event, and you were in the warm-up area, and I was doing a cool down on the assault bike, and you had a camera right there, and that was my first interaction with you back in 2014.
Wow. I remember being there at that gym. Was Camille there that day too?
This was before I was at Invictus. This wasn't at Invictus. This was at the 2014 regional.
Yeah.
And I was competing for Valley CrossFit at the time, which is where I started in the LA area.
Yeah, I remember.
And then
across from all those porn, it was in the porn district, right?
Wasn't kind
Valley
of.
CrossFit?
It was more Van Nuys. Porn district was Chatsworth. So
I just remember being parked out there one time, and all these girls and guys were parading in and out. And I go, "What's going on over there?" They go, "It's a porn studio." It's like,
oh, that's actually news to me. I actually didn't know that when I was there. That facility was so cool, though, man. We had like a gymnastics spring floor. We had so much space and all the toys early on. It was so fun. Becca Voigt was my first coach.
Who's the owner of that?
The owner was Michael Latch. I don't know if you remember him from the OG days.
Okay, yeah.
You know what's cool about him, though? Becca and I texted about this the other day. He did stuff with like jujitsu and circus training. And back in the day, we were doing pullovers before they were cool. And so for them to come full circle in this year's competition season was very awesome. Like he was teaching us somersaults. We were juggling. We were doing stuff with hula hoops. And it's honestly a big reason why I have so much appreciation for the parkour space and what your kids do, because it was introduced to me early on when I was at Valley.
When I was there, Michael was training someone who was like a stuntman for like a Spider-Man movie or something.
Yep, Brian Orozco is like the most famous, or not the most anymore, but at the time was a very famous American Ninja Warrior. And so he was doing he was trying to get into the CrossFit space. And then Tempest Free Running Academy was very close. So Paul Darnell, who stunt doubled for Superman, was the owner of Tempest. And so we kind of collaborated with those guys a little bit, and mad respect for parkour, man. I never really got into it, but I tried it a few times and it is tough.
Do you know the guy Dom? He's European. He's big like you.
Dom, what give me more context.
He's a parkour guy. He's massive on Instagram. He does the craziest shit. He looks like Brad Pitt, but 6'4".
Wow. You know, no, I haven't seen his stuff, but parkour is cool to me, man.
I wonder if I could find him.
It's so funny how the world comes full circle. I feel like we've run in parallel lanes, but not cross paths specifically before. It's kind of cool.
I think it's on my kid's account.
It's all good.
He does all the craziest stuff. If I pull up his account, I think everyone will be like, "Oh shit, wow." Dom Tomato. Let me see. Dom. You have a screen you can see?
Yeah.
Okay. Dom. Oh, here he is. Oh, I thought he had more followers than this. It's absolutely nuts, the shit he does. So this is a stare. Look at this.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
what a nutter.
Also just the grace in like absorbing in the landing, because that could really fuck you up.
Yeah, his account is absolutely nuts. I've been trying to get him on the podcast for years. And he's a big dude. You when I think of this sport, I would think of it as just a little guy sport.
Yeah, same. Wow. I'll have to check this thing out. What's his handle? Dom Tomato?
Dom Tomato.
Nice. I'll have to check that out. Does he operate as a stunt double as well?
I have no idea.
It's what a lot of those guys do. And they do really well. At least when I was in LA, they did pretty well, and they all got paid SAG.
That's a beautiful shot. Are you done competing?
Go ahead.
Are you done competing?
Yeah, I'm all done, man. I still jump in with our athletes and scale things next to them and get my butt kicked every day. But competing in the sport of CrossFit, I'm done, man. I've done a couple high roxes here and there just for fun with friends. Fitness will always be a huge part of my life, but I don't know, man. The competing side of things is doesn't get the juices flowing like it used to. But I like being a part of it. I like going to the events and supporting people and seeing all the cool things that they're doing out there and seeing my friends kick ass. It's fun.
Was the goal to play professional basketball, like in the NBA? Yeah,
that was the goal, man. I wish I was able to get there, but never made it quite that far.
And could you see? Did you think you deserved to be there, or were you like, "Fuck, those guys are just on this other level"?
I think in high school I still had the optimism to think I could get there. And then I played at San Diego State and still possessed like that optimism when I was there. And it just never really transpired, man. I never really found my niche and my lane, I guess, at the collegiate level. And I definitely played well when I was in Europe. That was a better style and I was a better fit over there. But yeah, man, mad respect to all the guys that play in the NBA. There's 450 jobs, man. And every single one of those guys is a stud. And they're big, they're strong, they're athletic. Like, people think some of the things we see in CrossFit are cool, but when you're a professional athlete making that type of money, there's a reason why you're making that type of money, because you can do things that other people can't do.
Right. Going back to the believing in yourself, there's this guest that we've had on the show a bunch of times named Tyson Bagent, and he just made it onto the Chicago Bears.
Oh, that's incredible.
And basically, no one believed he was going to do it.
Wow.
No one fucking believed it.
I'll have to check that out. I like that kind of stuff.
And now he's the backup quarterback. He came from Division II college to backup quarterback in 1 year for the Chicago Bears.
That's badass.
And
that's cool.
And every weekend I would sort of feel vicariously through him this, like, I couldn't tell whether he really believed in himself that much or if he was faking it. I couldn't tell.
I mean, there's a Rudy mentality somewhere in there to make it that far. Because let's be honest too, in the MLB and the NBA, there's guaranteed contracts, man. In the NFL, there's not. And there's a lot more risk associated with the NFL.
What does that mean? What do you mean guaranteed? Explain that to me.
Like, in the NFL, there's not necessarily guaranteed contracts until you've made it. I believe it's your 6th year in the league where the majority of your contract is guaranteed. There's certain guys that may sign certain contracts, but if they don't adhere to the deliverables or the outcomes that are agreed upon, they actually just get cut and released. And that's why they say NFL actually stands for not for long. And when you look at the NBA and the MLB, the majority of those contracts are guaranteed. And so there's not necessarily performance metrics for them to get paid. And so it's a really volatile world. And do you ever watch Hard Knocks? There's a really interesting behind the scenes.
No, I haven't seen that.
It's a cool show, man. But more importantly, aside from just like the training and the
is it on Netflix? Is it a Netflix series?
No, I think it's HBO Max. And the one that they're following currently is the New York Jets. And so they've got what's his name? Aaron Rodgers, who previously played for the Packers, and now he's the starting quarterback for the Jets. And
wait, he still plays football?
Yeah, he's with the Jets now. And he was incredibly controversial after doing, his conversation with Rogan around psychedelics, and then he was on with Aubrey Marcus, and he did like a silent retreat. He's I
remember his and he was on McAfee. Like, he would come on every week with that guy. Is his name Pat McAfee? The guy who stands up and wears the tank top, the sports guy, and he would just go on there and be like, "Hey, I'm not taking the vaccine," over and like every week. You remember that?
Oh, wow. I remember him saying
that's how he popped up on my radar.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, he held his ground.
Yeah.
It's a cool conversation, man. I mean, I will say, as far as the vaccine, I haven't met anybody that did not get it that regrets it.
Right. At
the very least, that says something.
There are some stories of people, like, you could go over to, you can find people who, like, who are on their deathbed who are like, shit, I should have taken it.
Think so?
But yeah, you'll see it. If you go over to CNN, it'll be like, father's dying breath is apologizing to his kids that he wishes he would have taken the injection. And then when I see a picture of the dad, no offense, but I don't think the vaccine was going to save him either way.
There's so many biomarkers, right, to look at.
Right.
And it's like, if you're an older adult that's potentially at risk, okay, it's worth a healthy conversation. But this is something that actually I think is really important. My brother's actually an emergency medicine doctor. Love him to death. And I get to hear all the stories on one side of the spectrum around, COVID deaths. And it's very challenging for a lot of these doctors. And I would probably relate that to the concept of reactive medicine. Big pharma, we're all probably going to need it one day in some capacity. But then there's this whole conversation of preventative medicine, health, lifestyle choices, nutrition choices, movement, fitness, contrast therapy, treating people appropriately, doing all of those fucking things consistently over time. I think the two of them need to learn to get along in the middle somewhere and not have it be so volatile of one's better than the other. And I think in the world of fitness, it's challenging because it's disrespected because there's not like an insurance model associated with it. And then on the other side, it has more weight because most people are going to be penalized if they don't have health insurance. But at the end of the day, going back to the open-mindedness and malleable conversation that you and I were having, these two sides need to work together. And if these people over here can consistently work out and make good food choices, at the very least, those things are going to lead to less necessity for reactive medicine and big pharma that possesses volatile risk. And so I definitely think that that's worth a conversation at the very least to allow that to get more popular in people's minds. Excuse me. And that, quite frankly, was not a huge part of the narrative. And that's what rose my eyebrows along the lines of like, it needs to be at least part of the conversation.
We live in this world where resources, the limited resource subject is like, seems to be on the forefront of everything, right? Whether it be with climate change or jobs, or it's always about limited resources, gas, electric cars. And yet clearly one of the biggest resources being tapped in the world today, especially in this country, is healthcare. It's like I would argue it's going to be the collapse of civilization if we're not fucking careful, if not already. And yet the people who are the least taxing on that resource, healthcare, for some reason are villainized.
Yeah. I mean, you know what's really interesting too?
It's completely inappropriate. Even, and I don't mean to attack the big people, but like, you take more gas when you go on an airplane. Someone who weighs 400 pounds when they go to the A's game, Oakland Athletics baseball game, they drink 4 cups and they use 4 styrofoam cups. They drink 4 Cokes. I only drink 1. I mean, there's just like this whole like, the hospital beds they take, there's just this consumption from people that's never recognized or not, you're not allowed to talk about because for some reason it would be inappropriate. But dude, it's like it's everywhere. You take 2 seats, your car requires more gas, you're eating more food than me, you're requiring more doctor services than me. And going back to the injection, God, another thing I will pile on to this, where I agree with you in regards to the injection. Maybe there are some people who wish they would have taken it, but I know tons of people who took it, tons who are like, oh, fuck, what did I do?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're not sleeping so good at night. They're tripping.
And what's interesting about that is you should be allowed to have hesitancy and say, you know what? I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm actually just pressing pause for a moment and allowing myself to gather more information. I have respect for the people that make the choice to get it, but I also have respect for the people that make the choice not to get it. And I think that's where the controversy comes in around the labeling and the condescending nature associated. People chose not to get it, but it wasn't reciprocated the other way, or maybe reciprocated is not the right word, but it wasn't pushed the other way of like putting people down for getting it. And then we started to see the myocarditis. We started to see, ED. We started to see all kinds of side effects that were a byproduct. I mean, to see Bronny James showing up in the news with heart issues, the son of LeBron James, and then other notable basketball players, just happens to be an arena that I pay a lot of attention to. And there's not speculation. There's not looking into why is this going on. This seems to raise some red flags. At the very least, it's like, guys, let's ask better questions. Something here stinks. We got to pay attention to that. And we need to make sure we're making the best decisions. And for some people, my mom's in her 70s. The vaccine might be a good choice for her where she's at risk. But for certain people that are healthy adults that are taking necessary precautions, maybe the vaccine's not a good choice. So I do think there's case dependency where it doesn't need to be a one-size-fits-all model.
That's for sure. What do you think? What do you think about this? There was a kid at the skateboard park the other day. Not a kid, grown-ass man, 30-year-old man, skating around with a mask on. And I took a picture of him and I sent it to one of my friends. And my friend goes, God, you're such a dick. And I go, what do you mean? I go, I'm thinking about posting this. And he goes, dude, just let people do what they want to do. He can wear a mask. He can not wear a mask. I'm like, yeah, I totally agree with you. He can wear a mask, not wear a mask. So why are you being a dick? Why are you taking a picture of him? Why are you going to post it? I said, hey, listen, dude, I think that we're all mirrors here. And he's at the skate park and he's wearing that. And what he's telling my kids, he's telling my kids the same thing that someone who lights up a cigarette around me is doing. They're telling me that smoking's okay. We're all mirroring each other. And so he's wearing a mask here, and that mask to me is saying, hey, there's a sickness and there's something to be afraid of. And he can wear it, and I'm not mad at him or I don't hate him for it, but I can also post it and be like, hey, look, this is ridiculous. This guy's skating at the skate park. You guys don't need to do this. There's nothing to be afraid of. And so we kind of had this back and forth. Like, he says, I'm being a dick. Let people do what they want to do, which I agree with. I am being a dick, and I do think that people should be allowed to do what they want to do, but I'm also not being a dick. It's like, hey, if you're going to wear a mask or you're going to do something that I think is just completely bizarre, then why can't I take a picture of you and post it and be like, what the fuck is this? Look what the message they're sending to the world. You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think there's a very interesting scenario around freedom of speech, right? Like, he is speaking a language that allows him to feel safe.
Right.
And you're speaking a language that allows you to feel safe, but also educate your children the way you want them to be educated. And so it creates this discrepancy within the messy middle, which is, how do you convey each other's message? Most misunderstandings are basically just a manipulation of communication. He's wearing a mask. For all you know, unless you have a conversation with him, you don't actually know why he's wearing a mask. You can make an assumption.
Right. Good point.
But you also don't know.
Good point. He could be doing it just to piss me off and be completely against masks. He could be doing it because he has a rare autoimmune disease. He could be doing it because his mom has cancer at home. Yeah, I totally agree.
However, to flip
totally
that script, you also possess agency to protect your kids at all costs. And your kids are now observing that behavior, and it elicits a narrative in their mind. So I think it just comes down to personal parenting, where maybe you press pause for a moment, you pull your kids aside, and you just help them understand, like, hey, that gentleman is doing X, Y, and Z behavior. You don't have to allow that to infiltrate your mind, and you can create, blinders and just focus on you and our experience today, and not allow external things that are, quite frankly, outside of our control to infiltrate your mind. It's a hard conversation for a young child to process. And I'm not a parent, so maybe it's irresponsible for me to share this humble piece.
I asked you. No, I like it.
But I think it's a challenging scenario for sure.
I got a better one for you. You ready for this?
Bring it.
So my kids were watching Transformers, and they really like Transformers, the cartoon. And then there ended up being a non-binary robot talking to a non-binary kid. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, they're not watching Transformers anymore, because I'm not explaining that to my kids, because I don't because it's made up to me. Like, the simpleton I am, I don't even have a gender. Like, I don't have a Halloween I just am who I am. I don't even know what my gender is. I wear condoms. I'm old school. But so I switched them to the A team. I'm like, okay, I'm going to just let them watch shit from the 80s where there isn't that shit, right? So I start having them watch the A team, thinking that, okay, now I'm not going to have to explain this to my kids until like they're 12. I don't have to explain to my 6-year-old what non-binary is, or what gender is. Not because I don't want to. It's just because I just don't think he's ready to. He's not even sure if Santa Claus is real. Why am I going to make up some other concept or ideas? I just want him to be like, yeah, I have a penis. I need to soap it, and wipe my butt. Like, so
I think it's a really challenging scenario. I mean, at the end of the day, do you have a front tail or not? And right, like, I mean, that's how it was kind of presented to me.
But Bryce, there's a 0.000000001% that has both.
I hold space for that argument for sure. I don't agree with it. And I think that, we were positioned on this world where yeah, there's all kinds of variables and speculations and percentages that lie this way or that way. At the end of the day, it's pretty simple to just see, do you have a front tail or not?
Yeah.
And, just because you may possess, if you're a male and you possess feminine attributes, or you happen to have cognizant behavior that maybe leans that way, you're not able to make a child. At the end of the day, you don't necessarily have a womb. That is, in my humble opinion, something nice. That is developed over time cognizantly, and it may be a learned skill because of feeling misunderstood in some capacity. And I might be totally wrong and irresponsible for saying this, but if you have a front tail, like, then you have a penis. That's just the way it is. If you don't, then you don't. Then you have the ability to make a child. And there's different hormone factors that play in relation to those. We all have testosterone and estrogen in our blood and in our bodies. It's just the ratio may be case dependent and change. I think it's a very complex conversation that possesses a lot of misunderstanding and challenge, and quite frankly, almost feels like it's elicited to just create an uproar and give people that are bored something to explore. But at the end of the day, I think it's a pretty simple task.
Okay, well, listen to where it's gone. Wait till you see how this is going to take a crazy twist. So my kids watch the A-Team now. And guess who they like the most? Are you familiar with the show, the A-Team?
I'm not.
Okay. I'm going to bring you up a picture, and I'm going to I wonder if A-Team, the A-Team. Okay, here we go. Images. It's a show from the 80s. I watched it like crazy. I loved it. It's this is the show here. You see these? This is Hannibal Smith, Murdoch with the hat. Hannibal's like the general guy. Murdoch is the crazy guy. He flies the airplane. And this is Face Man. He's the good-looking guy who like gets all like if they need like guns or something, or he gets it for him. And then this is Mr. T. He's known as B.A. Baracus, bad attitude. And see all those gold necklaces he's wearing?
Yeah.
So my kid wants to get all those gold necklaces. So I've slowly on Amazon been buying him costume jewelry one at a time so he can look like B.A. Baracus. This awesome. This is a Jew boy, but now he got a big old cross on him because BA got it. So he got the cross and the dollar sign. I'm like, hey, you're a Jew. You can't wear that. He's like, yeah, I'm Christian too. I'm like, all right. And he's getting all the gold. And so he says, hey, so the other day, this has been going on for like 2 weeks, and every day through Amazon, more costume jewelry's coming. And he says to me, hey, do I look like BA? I'm like, not so much. And he goes, okay. He's like, I want to be him for Halloween. And I said, okay. He said, I'm going to need some black makeup. Now, am I supposed to explain to him that some fucking assholes at the turn of the century wore black makeup, making fun of black people? And now because of those dildos, you can't dress up as your guy. My other kid wants to be Tupac. He got the Thug Life tattoo on his stomach, right? I got that from Amazon for him.
Nice.
What am I supposed to say? No, sorry, you can't do the blackface because some jackass in fucking 1903.
I think it's an interesting conversation around emulation.
You know what I mean? He has no fucking clue. I don't want to tell him that story. Yeah, I want to be like, yeah, dude, go ahead, dress up as Mr. T.
Yeah,
Someone else told me yesterday, they said he can dress up as Mr. T, just don't take any pictures and put it on the internet.
Yeah, I think parenting now is probably harder than ever. And they're emulating people that they look up to. There's humor associated with it. I mean, Dave Chappelle does a great job of touching on some of these categories where it's like, it's funny because it's offensive, right? And it's I think it's a healthy opportunity to educate your kids around like, hey, you can emulate these people without necessarily coloring your skin, not because I don't want you to do that, but because it may hurt other people. And I think we have a duty as humans to try to elicit no harm on others. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's just something that you possess a level of neutrality, and, you can be like, hey, we can play this game maybe inside the household during certain times, but we can't put this out there where it can potentially hurt other people, where it gets misunderstood and misguided. And it's unfortunate because there is so much of the world that gets offended by things that are so innocent like this. But it's an educational opportunity that is subtly a little bit painful for parents. But hopefully in time, if there's consistency with the messaging, the children will understand, and then they'll be able to make their own personal choices. They're old enough.
Or I get concerned that if I don't let them do it, that I'm participating in a narrative that's supposed to be sensitive to not hurt other people, but is really keeping other people down. Right? So there's no reason for that narrative to be there. That narrative, like we could set people free from a narrative that they use to be offended by, right? So
yeah. I also think, though, you might not like this.
Yeah,
I think you're allowing the actions of others to live in between your ears. I think
explain.
I think you're just allowing other people to joystick or control what's going on in your headspace of like, at the end of the day, if you think it's okay, it's your relationship with your kids. Who cares what they think? But then simultaneously, if you want to maintain neutrality, then it's like you create expectations with your kids up front of, hey, I understand what you're doing, but this could be offensive to other people. So we're probably not going to do it. And I think that just comes down to a personal parenting choice. And I honestly think at the end of the day, people are just trying to do their best. So if somebody's taking offense to, the painting of one's face, they've probably been hurt somewhere along their lives, or there's been a trigger of some sort where they see that thing and then they look at you and your wife and they make an assumption. But it goes back to, what is that? It's a miscommunication. I think
or they haven't been hurt, but they're trying to still maintain the narrative that they could be hurt.
Yeah,
Do you know
that's a high possibility, but all of this is constructed, right? Yeah. It's all constructive narratives that have been made over time. And I think if we treat people appropriately, it's like, do what you want to do. It's still a form of freedom of speech, and my actions don't have to affect you at all.
Right. Did you ever skateboard?
I tried when I was young, man. I think I was able to do some pop shove-its. I think I did some heel flips, a couple kick flips when I was young.
Are you a good dancer?
I tried it. Maybe I'm a good dancer because I don't care, but I'm not a good dancer by any sort of metrics by any means. I'm a tall, goofy white guy, man.
My kid that can do the footwork skateboard stuff, he's a good dancer and he's just a good mover.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've seen the best box jumpers, in my humble opinion, are really good skateboarders and snowboarders because of their ankle dorsiflexion. And so they can get their feet up really high and their butt can almost be below their feet, and they can still land really high box jumps. And typically they're good squatters too, from catching some of those tricks really low.
How old were you when your dad passed?
27. Maybe 28, 27 or 28. Yeah.
Does that change you forever?
Oh yeah. I feel like there's certain instances where it transitions you from a boy to a man. Like Tuesday of last week, my childhood dog Baxter passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And
how old was that dog?
He was like 16 or 17. He was amazing. Wow. Super cool dog. I got him somewhere when I was in college, and then when I left to Europe, he became very tight with my family. And my father didn't grow up with a ton of love for animals or dogs, but somehow he and Baxter were like best buddies. And
what kind of dog?
He looked like a little boxer mix. He's just a little mutt that was mixed with a few different things, but so fun, so full of love, good looking dude. And when he passed on Tuesday of last week, I remember my mom coming in to tell me, and she was a little distraught. And at that moment, for whatever reason, going back to the emotional intelligence conversation, I could feel that this was very traumatic to her because it was her hanging on to the last bit of my dad. And so when she came in, I knew in that moment I had one job, to be there and hold space. And so I just remember wrapping her up and giving her a hug. Her shoulders were high and she was a little distraught and crying. And I just remember squeezing her close and her shoulders just dropped. And it was an experience, man, where, when I was younger, that was the role my dad played. He was the safety net of when things went wrong, I could fuck up everything. And I always knew he was going to be there to help support no matter what. And he gave me the greatest gift ever, which is he unapologetically believed in me when nobody else did. You talked about the guy that played for the Chicago Bears. Like, I was irresponsible going to Taft High School, man. I wasn't athletic enough to play with those guys. And then somehow my junior and senior year became the leading scorer there and got an opportunity to continue and extend my career a little bit. But that was also because of how much belief he possessed in me. Another reason why I believe in this podcast adventure, but more importantly, why I believe that all of these different skills and tools that we add to the toolbox over a lifetime lead to that moment with my mom. Like, people ask, why do you train? I train so I can be the best version of me to give that version away to others. And if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And in that moment, it was just a moment where I needed to be strong for a family member that I love and care about. And I think that's where it changed a little bit, where in the beginning, it's a ton of grief. You wish you can have conversations with them. And then all of a sudden you start to look for those signs and things that were a part of both of our experiences, which for us was butterflies and hummingbirds. So sometimes when life gets a little rocky, I look around and those things present themselves. And I'm like, what's up, Dad? How's it going, man? And just, it's a quick little check-in. And I don't know. I think it's something that's very important that I love sharing with people. And there's a unique emotion associated with it. And I mean, it truly makes us wonder, right? None of us really know exactly what the afterlife is. And so exploring that principle and having that conversation is, I think, a commonality that makes us all human, because none of us really know, man.
Or where we came from.
That too, man. I mean, you go back, there's religious ideation, there's the Big Bang Theory, there's all kinds of thought processes around it. But it's fun to spitball and wonder, right? Like, do you ever lay with your kids and just look up to the stars and think, what are those things? Are they actually stars? Are they flashlights? Are we in a simulation? Like, you see a shooting star and you're like, what is that? And have those conversations just to, I don't know, maybe think a little bit outside of ourselves for a moment.
You said your dad believed in you when he passed. Did that create a void, or is that the part where you became a man?
I love the way you said that. I think it created a little bit of a void for a little while. And then over time, you start to deconstruct those thought patterns and wonder and share those conversations, and people share advice and wisdom. You have different experiences that don't quite make sense, and all of a sudden things start to make sense. I don't know, man. I'm speaking a little bit cryptically because it's hard to know if there was like an exact moment. But I mean, he's somebody I think about every single day. I'll share stories for people willing to listen. And I do think it's a big part of shaping, the last 5+ years of my life. And so, I give him a ton of credit, but he was a human being too, just like all of us, just trying to figure it out.
Having someone who believes in you is crazy.
I mean, that's why I said previously why I admire CJ so much, because I see him do that with his children. Yeah. It's one of the reasons why I actually really admire you, is I see how you do that in your children, and your children are so expressive and they do certain things. And I mean, in my humble opinion, the definition of success is not just peace of mind, knowing that you did your best to be the best that you're capable of becoming, which is defined by John Wooden. But it's more importantly, how do you inspire the next generation? Because there is going to be a time where, 3 generations from now, nobody's going to remember the podcasts and the conversations and the things that we did, but they're going to remember the generations that come after us. And those people hopefully will share some stories like, I liked the energy of that person. That person elicited thought-provoking conversation and they positively impacted my life in some way.
Chris says, does he smoke weed? You don't smoke weed.
Not a big fan. At 27 though, I never touched it when I was young, because I was always drug tested with basketball. And at 27, I started to dabble with it because I was trying to elicit ways to get my father to start eating and stimulate appetite. And at that time, my sister started working with a cannabis company. So we were very much educating ourselves. And I always like being my own experiment. And so upon, dabbling with that, I have used it in the past to elicit appetite for him. And it was a tool when I tore my elbow of pain management as well early on, but it's not something that I like to consistently use anymore.
Yeah.
I think everything in life, man, can be a tool, and it can be a tool for a season. I think the moment it starts to own you, or the moment it starts to become something that you can't function without it, it's not a tool anymore. It becomes a problem. So I think when things are used appropriately, they can be great assets to the human experience for sure.
Do you think you're going to have kids?
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
I have dad vibes. I'm the guy that wears New Balances, and yesterday was rocking the leaf blower in the garage and in the backyard and cleaning things up. Like, I like listening experiences. I love to teach. I love to love. I love to storytell. I'm gonna be an awesome dad one day, and I'm excited for that opportunity.
Do you is your full-time job at Invictus?
Yeah. So I coach there full time, and play with the podcast, and very fortunate to connect with some very cool brands along the way. And fitness has just become such a huge part of my life. After basketball, I worked as a strength coach at Cal State Northridge for a little while, did some stuff with the fire department, went to EMT school, later pursued physical therapy a little bit. None of those things really ignited my fire the way the innovations of fitness did. And so now I'm fortunate to use fitness as a tool to help guide people towards that peak expression like I talked about before. But I think I do it differently than most. I've said this a few times. I'm sure people have heard it a couple times, but when you work with your hands, you're a laborer. When you work with your hands and your mind, you're a craftsman. But when you work with your hands, your mind, and your heart, you're actually an artist. And so, in my humble opinion, I try to elicit art and creativity within the fitness space. And for some people, that's helping them with body composition. And, for some people, it's the X's and O's of program design and helping them with performance. For other people, it's mindset. And for some people, it's just eliciting a vibe and trying to create a good time. And sometimes it's networking and creating connections with people and, play, quite frankly. I mean, you and I both know, you see it with your kids. Play is the highest form of learning. And, if we can play through a little bit of movement, it just becomes this unique exploration where we're trying to figure things out about our body. Why are we the way we are? Why is this movement better than that movement? And I think we can learn a lot through that. That humbles us when we get into life, rather than allowing the ego to kind of be the leader of the troops.
What about do you have someone to make a baby with?
No, not currently.
No.
I'm on the market.
You are okay, you are on the market. Yeah. It'll happen.
I hope so, man.
It'll happen. It'll happen. It's fun. Do you have any nieces and nephews?
Yeah, I have a niece. My brother just had a baby a couple years ago, and she's so cute. I just FaceTimed with her yesterday, and she's at that age where she's really starting to process the world.
Yeah.
And she's building things, and she's got this such a special imagination. And she's starting to get super dexterous with her hands. And you can see it in their eyes when they start to look at the world. And they're like, oh, I'm tracking. I'm seeing what's going on here. I'm sure as parents, you got to be a little careful with your behaviors and your words, because they start to mimic everything.
Oh, it's fucking nuts. That's the worst part.
What's been your favorite experience as a father so far? Is there something that stands out?
Waking up in the morning.
Yeah, just like the childlike love. Do they jump in your bed, or what's that like?
All that shit, all that. But really, it's like, this is gonna sound kind of silly, but when I was, I don't know how old I was, but my mom got me a new car, a truck. And when I would wake up in the morning, I would go out in the driveway and look at it. Like, I'd wake up and I would go out there and they're like, yep, there you are. And it's like that with my kids. Every single day for fucking 8 years. Yeah, I just wake up in the morning and I go find them and I look at them in bed.
That's
and I
cool.
rub and I do. You probably did this to your dog, but like when you would pet your dog and you would be sleeping and your dog would stretch.
Yeah,
kids do that. So I
That's
wake
cool.
up and my kid's in bed and I rub his back and they do that. They go,
Because your level of touch
yeah,
is safe for them. They can
yeah,
tangibly feel, oh, this is good energy. This is somebody that will protect me. This is the person that feeds me. I
yeah,
can now spread my wings a little bit and elongate myself. It's a very special moment. You're not the first person that said that. I've heard. I'm at that age where a lot of my buddies have kids,
yeah.
and they all say that. Like, I can't help it. I just stare at them sometimes. It's so special.
Yeah, you like everything about them. You like, and especially, I think people like you or me or people who are in this space, the movement space, you will, the same way I said I like going to the CrossFit games and watching people move. Like I love watching my wife work out and I love watching my kids work out. So like
That's
I'll
good.
go to tennis and the tennis instructor will be like, "Hey dude, you notice there's no other parents here?" I'm like, "Yeah, motherfucker, you know I had this kid so I could watch him move." Like he wants me to give my kid space. I'm like, "No, he I I'm here to watch him move. I don't even care. Like, I want to see him swing the racket and how his toe turns and how the wind blows his hair and how he smiles at you and how he,
Have you noticed like any
all of it. I
negative
love it all.
characteristics that you're like, ah, I wish he didn't get that one from me?
They have crazy potty mouth already. Their sense of humor is crazy sharp. And like, sometimes I'm like, oh, that now here's the thing. Sometimes I accidentally hurt people with my humor and I see them do that and I'm like, fuck, that they got that from me. You know what I mean? Like some cutting shit. And it's like, ooh.
What does your wife say when that happens?
You know, she's tried to put the kibosh on some words and some things like that I do. You know what I mean? Like she'll like some observations that I make that I probably, you know, she'll be like, "Hey, can you not say that in front of the, you know, in front of the boys?"
And then how do you react? How do you
Uh,
react when
I
she
get
gets on
quiet.
you?
I get quiet. I wanna, like, make her happy. My wife does not, like, there's no rules for me really. I could do whatever I want, but when there is a rule, like, she told me one
Like
time.
putting the picture behind you of her up front, like that one?
Yeah, but she probably doesn't even know there's a picture of her back there. She probably doesn't even.
She will. She will after this episode.
She but it's mostly like, one time I wanted to set up an arm wrestling table in the living room and she said no. And I just remember just thinking, holy shit.
It's because she cares about you. She doesn't want you to destroy your elbow.
I didn't think my wife would ever say no to me. But I didn't even flinch. I just didn't do it. Like when she says shit. So sometimes she'll be like, "Hey, don't use that word around the kids," you know?
Yeah.
And I'll be like, "Okay." And I'll really do my best not to say that word.
Yeah.
Um,
Hey, what's your fascination with Hiller and why?
um,
Is it because he's controversial, because he's a little bit against the
no,
grain, or what is it about him?
nope, nope. And fascinations is the correct word.
Okay.
I fucking love Andrew. Like I don't mean like I love him like, "Ooh, I really loved that new Spider-Man movie." Like I love Andrew.
Hmm.
I love Andrew. And it's maybe I see myself in him. I don't know. I've never actually thought about it, but probably he's very loyal. He's a super high level communicator with me. We communicate on such a high level. He's the kind of person where I could be on the phone with him for an hour and a half and we not say anything. You know what I mean? Like he's doing his thing, I'm doing my thing, and then we
What do you
talk.
mean by like high communicator?
Clear and intimate.
Hmm.
We don't the things that we talk about that are very superficial are very, very clear. I am standing on X with a green ball in my hand and I'm throwing it over here with the goal of this.
Got it.
Like my two other very good friends I have, Dave Castro and Greg Glassman, they're very analytical. Remember we were talking about people who he's very open-minded, but also very analytical. He'll make decisions based on stuff that I would never make a decision on because of a discernment he has.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that many times. I have to be honest, I don't consume a ton of his content, but the stuff that I do see is interesting.
And I was really upset when he did upset's not the right word. I was very, it's when he made the video accusing Tia of being on steroids. I hated that.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, I hated that he did that, but that doesn't make me not be his friend. I communicated with him about it. Like,
Why
at
did he
length,
do
I
that?
still communicate with him. I'm still processing it.
Why did he do that?
I don't know why he did that, but it's what but here's the other thing too. I also want to say, go back to something very superficial that I love about him is that how hard he works. It's every single fucking day. It's relentless. It's relentless creation. There's zero laziness to him. There's tons of risk. I see he is tilling the soil and bearing the fruit, you know?
I see the risk factor for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I don't know why he did that. I don't know why but I don't think he's done doing it. He wants to be in that natty or not space.
Yeah, for sure.
And I probably don't like it because it makes me feel uncomfortable.
Well, what's interesting to me is,
and I wouldn't want it done to me, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair.
If I was
and
Tia,
I think attention is the highest form of currency in some
Mhm.
capacities for some people. And I don't know, some of it feels like a reach to me. Some of it feels like putting other people down to build them up. None of us are perfect by any means, but I definitely
like the Tia thing in specific. You mean like accusing someone of doing steroids?
I think of that. I think some of the stuff that he's put out around Danny has been a little bit irresponsible. And I think it's purposeful because, in your words, Danielle Brandon and Danny Spiegel are needle movers. They get a lot of attention. And if you ever spend time with either of them, they're fucking hard workers too. They're trying to maximize their craft. And I think sometimes,
which is obvious, by the way, too.
Totally.
Clearly,
sometimes I think there's just a humble manipulation of circumstance in order to elicit attention that almost feels like he's capitalizing on them. And my wonder, going back to our thought processes around legacy, is if he's putting other people down for his personal growth. And I'm not saying that's necessarily his intention, but that's my speculation in observation of some of his work.
Well, he's very clear that he's all about the views. He says that. Hey, I'm all about the views. Okay.
Totally. But 20 years from now, how does that sit? Right? Like you built this thing putting down other people. Like, how does that enhance the quality of the CrossFit space? Like in the beginning, it was holding the line of these are the rules. You didn't hit the standards. Right. But then it's become controversial speculation. And it's like, who knows exactly what's going on behind the scenes, which is why I love to podcast. I want to explore that. I want to see what's out there. And for all I know, people could be lying to me and manipulating me, but I'm okay with that because I'm allowing them to tell their story as opposed to me throwing out some sort of fabrication that elicits harm.
To ground this a little bit, let's say, for example, I think one of his first videos about her, I could totally be wrong, but was he was judging her muscle ups and saying, hey, these muscle ups don't lock out at the top. And being that she is a professional athlete and she wants to get from point A to point B and it's determined on these movements.
I honor that one. Unfortunately, that one was not in my presence at Invictus, so I can't specifically speak on it.
But either way, I could see from her perspective, it's an attack on her. Yeah. Right? You know what I mean? It's like, it's an attack on her. For her goals to get from point A to point B, this guy is now inserting his narrative. In the world we live in, you could give him a pass on that. The video was on the internet, but that is what he's doing. She's trying to get
let's
from point A to
also
point
move
B
the narrative in a slightly different direction now.
Sure. Yeah.
I love the NBA. I love watching Steph and Kyrie and Paul George. All of these guys in some capacity are probably doing some sort of traveling, some sort of palming of the ball. When you're at the top of the craft, there is a unique style. You are skirting the line a little bit. You're trying to maximize human potential in the midst of extreme intensity against the best in the world.
And you should be, I think. I think that's what you should be.
I mean, if you don't, quite frankly, you and I both know this, you're just not going to fucking make it. Right. Like your score, if you're so perfect on your reps, you're just not going to elicit a score that is competitive. Let's just be honest.
Right.
And I mean, that's a huge issue as to when I look at the space. I talked to Fikowski about this and the PFAA type thought processes. It's like being 6'4", 225 pounds. You can see when Bryce hits lockout and when he doesn't. It's really freaking obvious. But case dependency on certain levers, some people can hide that a little bit better. There is an art to the lockout of a thruster, the lockout of a muscle up, the angle of the camera. There's so many manipulations that can take place. And beside that being the point, what happened to the days of like, hey, we noticed this thing. Let's ask a question. Let's not just assume negative intent, bastardize the hell out of this individual, completely forget that they're a human being first. Let's step on them. Let's squash them. Let's kick them out the door for our own personal gain.
Okay.
I don't agree with that.
Bryce, let me tell you, I want to put moments to this. So we agree on the first moment generally, but it's specific. The part that you don't agree with is maybe the part that I don't agree with. But this is what makes certain people unique in this way. A lot of people say that she's cheating on purpose. That makes me, Sevan Matosian, feel very uncomfortable because I don't know that. I don't know that. I don't believe that. I see if someone says, hey, her elbow's not locked out, I can be like, it is locked out. And then they can freeze the frame and be like, it's not locked out. And I can be like, oh, fuck, you're right. But the part that I'm trying to understand what you're saying, the part that you're saying where it's stomping on them is hurting them is when you're like, hey, dude, she's doing this on purpose. Like this guy, William Leahy, there's people, I don't know him. I haven't watched any of his videos, but he tried to go to Rogue and it's a big topic of conversation because people are saying this guy's so fucking fit, but he's a cheater. And it's like, I think you've gone too far when you call him a cheater. Like, I don't know what the fuck's going on between his ears. Is that what you're saying? I'm trying to understand you where
exactly
it's gone too far.
Saying. And
now you're drawing an analysis without saying, hey, hi, Danny, this is Andrew. Did you do it on, can I find out did you do it on purpose? Are you a cheater?
I think it deserves a healthy conversation for sure. But at the very least, if I were to provide a solution orientation, if we want to get credentials for most things, what do? We have to go.
By the way, I accept the fact that it makes me uncomfortable too, by the way.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, okay.
But did you hear what I said around?
Sorry, about credentials. Something about we have to say it about credentials. Say it again. Sorry.
With credentials, you typically have to go to like a testing center, right?
Okay.
So maybe that's the next iteration, right? Where like certain CrossFit affiliates have highly certified judges that then go to a testing center. And, they perform these workouts and these qualifiers at the center with certified judges where, with it being so subjective, if a judge is allowing me to get away with it, I'm going to keep doing it. It's just the nature of sport. If I'm palming a basketball and the referee's not calling it and I'm getting buckets all game and I'm dropping 30 on another team and we're going to win, I'm going to keep doing it.
Right.
It's not that I'm purposefully trying to cheat. It's that I want to win and I'm a competitor. And I think that is something that gets misunderstood where it gets looked at like, no, this person is trying to win. They are a competitor in that moment.
Right.
And if you're at a testing center, though, it falls less onto the shoulders of the athlete and more on just holding the standard as a judge.
Yeah.
It's an interesting conversation because then you could also get even deeper. We saw it with Rich and Scott Panchek back in the day where it was like Rich got away with a few things sometimes, dropping the bar behind him and things like that to get across the finish line. Or maybe I think at that time they hadn't made that rule yet. But like geniuses and high-level performers like that, or even Michael Jordan, they got away with a lot more. I mean, they used to make jokes that, MJ could make certain moves and do certain things that just other people couldn't get because there's a ton of scrutiny that comes with no repping a high-level athlete as well.
So another great example, I've had trouble accepting that until very recently. Whenever anyone would bring that up, Andrew or other people would bring that up, hey, the judges are fucking letting Annie do this because of who she is. I'd be like, are you fucking crazy?
I think they're afraid of what's to come if they no rep them. Like, the negativity that comes with it. And you just have to
I think it's
honorable.
Unconscious. I think it's a lot of it. The only way I'm able to get my head wrapped around it is a lot of it's probably unconscious too.
Could
like,
be.
Holy fuck, I'm out here judging Annie Thor's daughter.
Yeah.
And
I do
sorry,
think
Annie, I
there's
don't
a
mean to
lot of
pick you. There's nothing I'm thinking specifically of Annie. I just chose her because she was a big name.
no,
There's no
totally.
like
You bring
bad
a
rep I'm thinking. I don't mean to.
you bring a really
bag
good point, man. And I mean, I also have to go back to that original example. Judges are human too,
Yeah.
right? They're going to have anxiety. They're in front of a crowd too. There's definitely, self-reflection of, is this the right posture? Is this the right angle? Is this how I was briefed? They're nervous as well. Am I keeping the right count? Are they in the right specific location? There's a lot of miscellaneous variables that are traveling through the headspace of the judge as well. It's not just monotonous. But at the very least, man, I think these conversations are fun. I'm not saying I'm right and you're wrong, or
I didn't
Hiller's
get that
right
at
or
all.
wrong.
Yeah.
I just think I don't like the personal attack on the human being. And I wish that he could soften that approach at the very least, not just for the athletes, but for his future self in 20 years, who's not going to like the fact that he put harm on other individuals.
By harm, what do you mean? What do you mean by harm?
He's using verbiage and assumption to grow his views while speculating the intent of certain athletes in pursuit of maximizing their potential.
Suggest that Tia's on steroids, a sponsor drops her, she loses money, and that harms her.
Potentially.
For example. Okay, good.
It's also affects
Yeah.
her reputation. Now that word, when you put it into Google, I mean, let's go back. You mentioned you're good friends with Glassman.
Yeah.
When I worked at the university, the word CrossFit was immediately categorized as, oh, that's dangerous. Because when you put it into Google, you saw pukey, you saw bloody hands. It had a predetermined narrative. And I always went to bat, no, it's not like that. It's this awesome community. It's constantly varied, high intensity, functional movement. And I'm sitting there like trying to create buy-in. But the bottom line is when you Google Tia Claire Toomey now, there's going to be an association with performance enhancing drugs. And that's not fair to her reputation.
That word fair. I wish that we could use a different word besides fair. Let me ask you this. Are you friends with Danny?
Oh yeah. I'm friends with almost all the athletes that I get to connect with and have on the podcast.
By the way, I just typed in Tia's name and the word steroids didn't come up afterwards. Oh, let me type in Tia.
I'm sure it's not going to be at the top, right? But it's probably going to be intermixed now because of that video. It's at least in the internet ethos. And maybe it would be there anyway.
Steroids, Hiller's name does pop up. Very first one.
Yeah.
Which, okay. So since she's also your friend, when someone says something about her that you either think is not true or that is hurtful towards her, you don't like it.
I mean, I would take my personal bias out of it. I mean, I would say that if it was anybody else in the CrossFit space as well.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's a humble reach to elicit personal gain. And I definitely think there's a better way to do it. And you talked about the slow growth of podcast and YouTube and all those things. I would rather do things the right way, that I don't have to look over my shoulder or hurt other people, even if it's slow and doesn't lead to enhanced monetary gain, because I choose to be an honorable person. Not everybody in the world deserves honor, but I think going back to character, if you choose to be an honorable person, you're leaving the world a better place than the way you found it. And I think that should be all of our missions as we're in this media space, in this connection, storytelling space. If we do that, man, everybody's tide rises.
He has told me, and I've seen him walk the walk, which is pretty fucking amazing, that he will never do anything that he's not willing to say to a person's face. And so there are people. Another relationship that he has that makes me very uncomfortable is with the Masters athlete. What's his name? His daughter goes to Invictus, or used to go to Invictus. Who's the great Masters athlete? 60 years old, been to the games fucking 3 gazillion times. Long hair.
Is it Kevin Kester?
No. Someone will tell me his name. I like the guy.
Kevin Kester's a stud, by the way.
I think this guy lives in Malibu.
And he's an Invictus athlete.
Hip and steel.
Oh yeah. He doesn't live in Malibu, but I went to the games in 2016 with his daughter Heather.
Yeah, Heather, great lady. So Hiller's relationship with him makes me very uncomfortable.
Yeah, I did not
Another one that
see.
I did not like how that went down either.
Yeah,
But
that looked tough. I know Dave was a little upset by it. I didn't see all the specificity associated with that, but in my humble time spent with Dave, he does have some biomechanical issues where he can't lock out his elbows. I don't know what Hiller got on him about. But that is a humble gray area within the CrossFit space. I mean, you and I both know this. The judges typically do an assessment. Hey, show me your lockout position. And you show them, and that may look different than other athletes and may seem potentially controversial based on certain injury history and biomechanical limitations.
My point was is also though that when he saw Mr. Hibbensteel at the games, he didn't avoid him, and so Hiller has this thing where like, hey, if I'm gonna say something about you, I'm also willing to say it to your face.
Yeah,
and so he that was just what triggered me to share that with you. Is just that he doesn't feel like he has to. He beats to a different drummer. He's gonna be super successful. He's not normal. Super successful people aren't normal. I don't think.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to paint the picture of him.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
would you have him on
things.
your show? Would you have him on your show?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I think it'd be fun to explore.
Yeah.
But I also think like people can have good characteristics and bad ones. So they can just be different. They also don't even have to be labeled good or bad. I definitely see how he beats to a different drum. He goes against the grain. He does things that are different. And in the beginning, I thought it was cool because I thought he was holding the standard of guidelines and the rules and regulations of the professionality of the sport. But it's almost like the addictive personality set in, and he got so much success so fast that it steered him in a little bit more of a unhealthy, controversial direction that started to negatively impact the space. But because negativity is typically louder than positivity, you get rewarded with views. Now we've talked about him on the Sevan podcast. That's going to get, bright-eyed and bushy-tail for someone that is craving that level of validation. And so I think that everybody has this song inside. I think he could be very successful one day. He probably has a lot of amazing attributes, but I think he can do them better to positively impact the space and its growth, as opposed to, coming in a bit volatile.
He made these 2 videos. I'm kind of making this up, but the spirit of what I'm saying is true. The 5 things he liked about the CrossFit Games, and it got 20,000 views. Then he made the 5 things he hated about the CrossFit Games, and it got 50,000 views. Me and him were talking about that. Yeah, people want to see. The CrossFit Games were the greatest experience of my life. Wow, CrossFit Games were a train wreck. You label 2 videos like that, and you're right. The one that's like CrossFit the Games was a train wreck will get double the amount of views. People are drawn to the. You know what I mean? The 10-inch penis gets more attention than the 5-inch penis. So I don't know how I jumped. I guess it's 5-inch penis and a 10-inch penis.
I mean, you're basically saying size matters.
I apologize. It was a bad correlate. I just didn't feel like I had enough penis metaphors in the show yet.
Tell me about Glassman, dude. What's he like? Obviously, creative genius. We're talking about positive and negative character and attributes and reputation. I've never met him personally before. I've heard really good things. I've heard challenging things too. You've got some history with him. What's the story there?
In the easiest way, he's a mix of Tupac, Hemingway, and Einstein. He is very aggressive, very intelligent, and he's also extremely funny. He's extremely funny. I have him on my shows every Tuesday now. And I haven't got the funny side out of him yet. But last night I went out to dinner with him and Dave, and all sorts of funny shit being said. Just hilarious. And the reason why is because he's a wordsmith. So he says a lot of funny shit. Shit that maybe he doesn't even know is funny, but then when he comes out of his mouth, it's funny, right? He juxtaposes a lot of words together that other people wouldn't dare try to do.
Yeah.
And he comes
a little bit of a creative genius. Is he going to be okay following this episode? That's a tough act to follow.
Tough. He's a great guy. He's extremely aggressive. Although he's mellowed out quite a bit since he sold the company. People don't realize that when he was kicked out of 20 gyms or whatever because he told people to eat low carb. He doesn't realize that he was in an era where the deadlift was dangerous, that he was fired from jobs for telling people to squat below parallel. He was a true fucking renegade.
Yeah.
And he wanted the fight, and he was willing to fight, like fist fight in the parking lot. I'm not talking about just like metaphorically or intellectually fight. He was willing to do that too.
It's brave.
He was invited to the Pentagon, and he got the papers that they were going to show him before the meeting, and he saw that someone had completely plagiarized his shit without telling him. I'm giving the cliff notes of the story, and he fucking yelled at a room full of fucking super high level fucking Pentagon officials and told them, and basically told them, all at some point I'll see you all in court. And he ended up get fucking all those people when the NSCA made that paper that said CrossFit injured people.
Yeah.
And he was able to uncover all that. And so he is up for he's really singularly focused on the truth. He really believes
that's cool
in the pursuit of the truth. Yeah.
Isn't it fun when there's all kinds
very
of
free and very dangerous.
Yeah, totally.
People who are in pursuit of the truth can be very dangerous to other people around them.
Yeah, I definitely align with that for sure. And it's just interesting, right? Like I try to hold people to the standard of what I know when I interact with them for the most part. Yeah. And Glassman, man, he's got some genius phrases out there. The company that he's created is very cool. He's got he just put his stake in and he's held it. Yeah. And, despite all the challenges that have come with his narrative, there's a lot of good that should be highlighted as well. And sometimes I think, people forget, hey, we're all involved in this sport now and in this industry and in this space. It's not just CrossFit. It's the branches that have come from CrossFit, the media, the brands, the friendships, the marriages, the kids, all the things that have been ripple effects from something that was pretty cool. And, that's shout out to him. I'd love to have him on the show too and kind of pick his brain.
It's crazy that people would take something, twist it one way and then another way and twist it another way. Here, basically take something that they have no idea whether it's true or not and hold it against someone. Make up a complete horseshit bullshit story about someone. Maybe it's even 100% wrong.
Could be.
And yet throw that out with the fact that, hey, this guy has something that can prevent chronic disease, everything from cancer to any heart disease, that he's brought to the world to gift you and all your future generations to come.
Mm-hmm. Talk about inspiring the next generation, man.
Yeah. And but we live in this era. It's the same with the defund the police movement. Yeah. There was this movement to defund the police because police were bad to black people. And in the end, within a year, there was a 34% increase in black homicide. And I attributed directly to the fact that we're going to defend they got rid of the bad guy with no plan, right? The cops. I use bad guy in quote. I don't really believe that. And it's like, that's exactly how Glassman was treated too. It's mind fucking.
I'll give you this as a unique, a unique story, and then I'll bring it back.
Yeah, please.
I have this one client that comes in a little bit later, and there's a good amount of time from when I train to when I see him. Mm-hmm. And there was a day where I trained a little bit later, and he came in jokingly. He's like, "Oh, you do actually work out," like jokingly, a little bit patronizing, but also like slightly serious. Yeah. And
isn't it pretty obvious by your body that you work out? I mean, you have a pretty insane body.
Only on Mondays. I told you this, man.
All right.
But what's funny about that is the human mind is conditioned to think, I'm only going to process and take in what I see. So if the narrative that is portrayed around the police is negative, it's what's shown on video documentation. Those videos go viral. They're shared all over social. Right. It does end up skewing the mind and human psychology a little bit. But what's unfortunate is when you look at percentage ratios, all the good is not always documented. It's expected.
Right. Well said.
And that's the challenge, right? Like you look at a job and it's like you could do 85 things right and one thing wrong. And obviously case dependent on the severity of what you did, like you could be let go. And it's like in this particular instance, there's a lot of really good behind the scenes that I'm sure Glassman was a part of. I'm sure there was negative stuff too that, maybe I know, maybe I don't know. But at the end of the day, what was shown in the public eye possessed a level of severity that led to some very challenging decisions that had to be made. But with that being said, I do think it's important to highlight that we're still all doing this because he started it. And he had the bravery to get people to squat below parallel and challenge traditional healthcare narratives. Atkins was probably the first group that talked about low carb, high fat. Then we started seeing research within keto. Like in some ways, he's a trailblazer that elicited conversations in the deep, dark corners that nobody was talking about.
The 365 million traffic stops that are done a year and 12 unarmed black men died. But it's just fucking nuts. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's what's in the media. Very little context. Very little trust on people's own discernment. People outsourcing their discernment. Yeah, it sucks. And so once again, going back to that thing, and this is the part I struggle with. There's people who think that this is being done by a sentient being, that it's all purposely being done. So you've heard this narrative, divide and conquer. This is all part of the divide and conquer. And like, I have trouble wrapping my head around that. I have so much trouble wrapping my head, but I'm glad those people do think like that. I want them here. You know what I mean? Because
we need that type of stuff. Like if you and I are sitting here and we agree on everything,
yeah,
that's a pretty boring fucking conversation. And it shows that there's no human experience on either side, or that we were like lab rats that literally did the X's and O's exactly the same from birth until now. We're all going to possess different lenses on the world. There's different experiences that lead to us reacting and behaving a certain way. And I'll share this quick tangent. My buddy's the founder of Trident Coffee. And I asked him, hey, why did you create this thing? And he was in Afghanistan and he was sitting down having a cup of coffee, and there was an Afghani soldier, and he said, hey, what is your role? What is your goal here? And he goes, well, I'm just trying to protect my family. And he asked the same question back. He said, what's your role? What's your goal here? And he goes, well, I'm just trying to protect my family. They're doing the same thing. But if you look at a 6 and a 9, like you and I are going to see two different things. And I think having that level of understanding to try to like empathize and understand why people are doing what they're trying to do. Like you and I are basically back and forth playing ping pong right now verbally, and you're trying to hit to me and I'm trying to hit to you. Inevitably, we're doing the same thing. And I think that level of compassion and understanding makes it where we're not controversial figures. We're just competitors trying to succeed at life.
I want to come back to that competitor thing. Along that I can't believe you took it here. It was perfect about seeing different things. This is another thing about CrossFit that people really, really, really don't understand. We're on the Greenpeace boat, and Greg has pulled the boat up alongside the Japanese whale boat to fucking destroy them. 51% of the passengers on our Greenpeace boat, this is the CrossFit community, think we're on a whale watching expedition. They don't even fucking know that we're fucking activists. They think they're looking at the byproduct. They're not even looking at the mission, the cause, the effort, what's driving. They think, some other people think we're on a fishing expedition. Some people just think we're sunbathing on the boat.
Yeah.
There's so many fucking people on the boat who have no fucking clue what the fuck. And by the way, this is touching on something. That's the problem with CrossFit right now. There's no captain. No one knows. Because this motherfucker was supposed to pull up next to whaling ships and sink them.
Yeah.
This wasn't a community. This wasn't those were byproducts of it. This wasn't it had morphed into a fucking activist. We were fucking like fighting, bucking the system. We were like, I mean, imagine if Greg would have kept a company and just put both middle fingers up to Pfizer as we rode through the pandemic in the U.S. government, and we made it out to the other side. Can you imagine how strong this brand would be right now?
Yeah.
Holy fuck,
it's a really,
it would be gangster as shit.
Yeah, it's a really interesting speculation for sure.
Yeah.
But I'll also humbly say this.
I'm not saying those other things are bad, the community and all that. I like all that, but it's a byproduct of this. We can't have everyone picking avocados. Someone's got to take care of the tree.
Yeah, no, I definitely align with that. There needs to be better leadership for sure. But I'll also say this. One of the genius things that Glassman did is he diminished the level of specificity in his definition of CrossFit. And I used the humble example with you earlier of like trying to learn from lots of different people, take all of those ingredients, put them into a blender to elicit a digestible smoothie. In theory, that's what CrossFit is. It has yoga principles. It has gymnastics principles. It has cardiovascular principles. It has weightlifting. It has powerlifting. And so what's interesting is diminishing the level of specificity makes it recess. At recess, sometimes you play basketball, sometimes you play in the sandbox, sometimes you're playing foursquare. You're interacting with people, so inevitably there's going to be a community. Where the problem lies is when somebody's like, I like doing that better than I like doing that, so I'm only going to do that, and that's better, and then I develop an elitist mindset that creates divide. And I think if we think of it in that term, everybody's trying to say and do the same thing. They're just saying it differently. And they, quite frankly, enjoy, understand, and articulate about specificity better than, the broad and inclusivity that Glassman brought.
Trish says, do you have an active L1? Did you take? I assume you have your L1.
Yeah, I did my L1. I actually did the L2 twice, and then I think I've done almost every specialty certification associated with CrossFit.
Wow.
I've learned a lot. I've been around a lot of people way smarter than me, man. And so just collecting that information as we go. Yeah, man. I went to K-Stars thing. I learned from Mark Bell and those guys at the powerlifting seminar. I've spent some time with Coach B doing the weightlifting thing. And then also outside of CrossFit, done some stuff with Mike Boyle. I've learned from him. I'm a big fan of Dan John, the guy that always talks about all the carries. He has got a great book, by the way, Never Let Go. That's a fun one that I think a lot of people would enjoy.
I've heard that name. That guy's old school as shit, right?
Yeah, Stuart McGill's the big back specialist. Spent some good time with Dr. Aaron Horschig from Squat University. Learned a lot from that guy. He's got some great knowledge. Chatted with Ben Patrick a little bit, the knees over toes guy.
Oh,
I'm just a big fan. There's a lot of people putting out good stuff, man. And I'm just curious.
Did you have him on your show, Ben Patrick?
I haven't had him on yet. I really want to. And we've chatted a little bit back and forth, and I implement a ton of his stuff. The backward sled drags, the knees over toe, like lunge type stuff. He's got some really cool things. The tibialis raises, all those things are great to help people with knee pain and jumping athletes that want to play volleyball or be weekend warriors.
Cave Dastro, why didn't Sevi bring up Trisha's first super chat? And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 question marks. It's very inquisitive of you. I just scrolled all the way back, and I didn't see it. Do you have toe spacers?
I do.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
Yeah, they are awesome. Someone the other day in the YouTube comment said to me, they said, man, it takes Sevan forever to put on his socks, because sometimes I put them on during the show.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm not putting on my socks. I'm putting on my... Do you ever smell your toe spacers?
I don't. Not there yet. They're cool, though, because in basketball, man, I had to get my ankles taped like all the time. And I feel like shoes are subtly like casts. So being able to have the ability to start spreading the toes a little bit. When I was in college, I battled plantar fasciitis. And so I picked up, part of the rehab was picking up marbles with my toes and then putting them into a bucket and like doing towel grabs, just trying to get more dexterous with the toes. And so when I saw that toe spacers kind of created a product to elicit education and notoriety around that, I was like, you know what? This is really cool. The foot is the foundation to everything that we do. And plantar fasciitis sucks. and with double unders and jump rope and running and change of direction now with shuttle runs and certain things that we see in the sport, I was like, you know what? I'm on board with this. That's a cool thing that they brought to the market.
Are you Steve Whitney? Is this guy Mormon?
No. No. But in college we played BYU, man, and that was a fun place to play. Played against Jimmer Fredette. He led the country in scoring my freshman year of college.
Clock. Oh, maybe that's why I've heard of Dan John. Is he a hater of CrossFit? Clock says Dan just recently took another dump on CrossFit dudes. A football player and thrower has no concept of real work capacity. I've heard that name in the past. Is he a hater?
I don't know. I definitely think he has more of like a strength and conditioning bias. I don't know if he has a football background. I know he was a thrower for sure. His version of strength and conditioning is very much old school, but I heard this from an incredible friend of mine, Heidi Barker, who's a great healer. She said, take what you need and leave the rest. And so if somebody hates on CrossFit, I don't really care. I'm just like, he popularizes carries. And like when Sam Dancer's in town, like he loves doing front rack carry, overhead carry, waders carry, suitcase carry, farmer carry, doesn't beat up the joints, elicits an awesome amount of capacity, and it's safe. And so he's got some cool principles that we've borrowed and stolen, and they really help us in our journey.
Hey, just to be clear, when I was saying that about the leadership, I don't have any direct, I wasn't poo-pooing the leadership. I was basically just saying that the boat's out at sea. And it's going to be, the company was owned by one guy. And if those people, if you weren't around him, you don't really probably know what this company really was. So like if someone was, all the people in the back of the boat were never, like everyone was happy to think that they were, the boat, CrossFit boat was taking them where they wanted to go, which is fine. But if you weren't around Glassman, or you weren't paying like really close attention, you probably don't even know where the fucking boat's going. And when he sold the company, and anyone can go back and watch his videos and find out, but when he sold the company, his goal was never to make money. Like that was, I never in the 15 years, I lived with him for 3 years and I talked to him every single day for 15 years. He was never like, hey, I've never heard him once talk about making money. Never once. And so,
I mean, I also don't fault somebody for wanting to make money.
No, not at all. Like I agree.
He may have had a bigger mission and bigger purpose. And I totally aligned. Like, I don't think that's a knock on Don Fall or the current leadership.
Right. Yeah.
I just think like there's been so much volatility and change, right? The seasons changed, the venues changed. There's just so much cluster right now that I think when you look at what happened during the pandemic, it was FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And I think that's some of what we see in the CrossFit space is just so many changes that without a solid foundation, it feels like we're juggling too many lacrosse balls all at the same time. And there's not a sense of stability that elicits forward momentum.
There's a gumball machine at this, well, the restaurant's closed now, but there was a gumball machine at this restaurant, and it had didn't have gumballs in it. It had rubber bouncy balls in it.
Nice.
And my kids liked going to this restaurant because they could, every time we went there, I'd give them a quarter and they could get a rubber bouncy ball. But there was no fucking way that was going to sustain the business in any way.
Yeah.
And if the person who bought the business were to overinvest in the rubber bouncy balls, they would go out of business.
Yeah, I track that. So
that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, and I don't knock anyone for wanting to make money either. Having money's dope. Fuck. Money's great. It's so fun. So fun having a big old fat wad of cash. Go to the arcade. Just be like, yeah. Play the dollar. I play the dollar games for hours on end.
There you go.
Yeah. Hey,
in your podcast journey, man, what's been the number one thing that stands out to you in your journey connecting with all these different people within the space? And how long you been doing it for, man?
I don't know what the number one. I've basically been asking people questions on camera for over 20 years. My favorite thing is now that I finally have my own thing, and it was really hard for me to call this podcast the Sevan Podcast. I hated that thought of it, and now I love it. I hated the thought of it being all mine. I always was like, share, do this, bring this person along, do this. And finally, I reached a point where like, I'm not doing that. I'm just looking out for fucking me with this. And the coolest thing is that I get to be, and I always wanted to be a stand-up comedian when I was a little kid. I always wanted to be Richard Pryor, Rodney Dangerfield, or Abbott and Costello. Like I loved comedy. So I get to do that. And then this is going back to the very first thing we talked about on this podcast. This isn't why I do the podcast, but my number one goal on the podcast, and I think my mom kind of taught me this. This podcast is my house. And I want people to, when they leave my house, to leave I don't want it to be a negative experience for them at all. I love elevating people. I believe in fucking people. I want to believe in people. I want to see, I see the good in people. It's not even that I want to, I do. Like I see people to me are like just jolly ranchers, just waiting to be opened up and sucked on. You know what I mean? Like they're so great. I love people. And so yeah, my thing is that I'm able to just do that day in and day out. Try a joke that's like, ooh, I don't know if I should be telling this joke. This is too dirty or too nasty. But also like let people know, like, dude, you're the shit. You're fucking the shit, you know?
It's cool, man. I like hearing the why. Makes sense.
Hey, thanks for coming on. That was 2.5 hours. I appreciate you, man.
I feel like I blinked in it and we got there. That was a fun chat, man. Thanks for connecting. Thanks for making this happen. Yeah, and if there's you're so easy. You're always welcome to come back on, shoot the shit, any topic. Yeah, good to finally meet you. I appreciate you running into you at the games and you being so cool and just easy. I appreciate it. Even with my snarky, he's an AI. I don't believe he's real. Maybe you'll believe I'm real now.
Yeah, I definitely believe you're real. You're like 4 people in one. All right, brother. Have a good day.
You too, dude. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. I saw this can't be really Taylor, is it? This cannot really be Taylor. Man, why all the hostility? Jeez Louise. I'm not headed to the skate park. I'm chilling for a second. I'm going to go party at Greg's house though. I'm taking my kids over there in just a minute. What happened? What got you guys all fucking all wound up in a fucking frenzy? Want me to talk about that picture I sent in the group text? Yeah, sure. Yeah, go ahead. Let me see. If this is really Taylor, yeah, to do it. I dare you. What did you say, Trish? How can you hang with a harm doer like Greg? Oh, okay. I tried to. All right. Okay. I hear you, Trish. I see. Okay. Fine. All right. I respect that. I respect it. I see what you guys are saying. Okay. I tried to ground a lot of things. In this conversation. I hope I get some points for that. Someone sent me 99 cents or something. I tried to ground a lot of things. Oh shit. I tucked my dick and balls between my legs and sent you all a pic of it. How have you had this much time to watch this show? You're usually so hard to get a hold of. What are you doing even watching the show? Why did you guys get so wound up by him? Yeah, there were some things I felt like I was trying to ground this thing on he's a big picture guy. He wants to stay Bryce wants to stay big picture. There were lots of things he said that I didn't understand that I needed to like be brought down to like, I don't know, brought down to earth or like I need examples. But I thought he was great. He's a great conversationalist. I just need lots of things grounded. And there were tons of things that he said that I didn't have time to ground. And I think that's what you're saying, Trish, right? Oh, I think this hurts a little bit. Sevan put on a great performance. Fuck. Not exactly what I wanted to hear. 2.5 hours. Jeez Louise. That guy's done a lot of shit, man. That guy has done a lot of stuff. I wonder how my show notes are going, if they're transferring over. When I was driving back yesterday with Dave, we were in Sacramento and we drove all the way back to Santa Cruz. It's like 3 hours, 2 hours and 50 minutes or something. And he's a huge Miami Dolphins fan. So he's got the radio up full fucking blast and we're listening to the Miami versus fuck if I know. And the commentator was so fucking horrible. It was pathetic. It's pathetic. These guys had a show on SiriusXM and they were so bad. Hey, Patrick, remember how we were talking about Laura Sanko? Laura Sanko's amazing, amazing compared to these ding-dongs that commentate the Miami game. There was a guy kicks a field goal, right? And the commentator goes like this. He's like, they're going to go for a field goal. It's good. It hit the post, but it's good. It's good. I'm like, you fucking idiot. I don't know shit about football, and that's not how you tell a story. It's like, they're going to go for a field goal. 3 points. It's the snap. It's a clean snap. The ball's put down. The holder spins the ball. The threads aren't lined up perfectly. Jonah, whatever the fucking kicker's name is, kicks it. It's up. It's up. It's up. It doesn't look like it's going to make it. It doesn't look like it's going to make it. It hits the post. And it's in. It's good. Not it's in. He didn't even say that they're lined up. He didn't say that there was a snap. He's like, it's good. It hit the post. What a waste of a fucking opportunity. Oh, lace is out. Whatever. Yeah, point that. You know what I mean? Like say some shit, dude. And then what a great opportunity. The ball hits the post and then goes in. You got to you got to time that out. The 51 yard field goal attempt, the second longest of the year. He kicks it. A beautiful kick. Kicker goes down. The ball's up. The ball's up. It's not tracking. It's not tracking. The fuck? It just tell me it fucking went in and then tell me it hit the post afterwards. I don't give a fuck if it hit the post afterwards. I need to know it hit the post first. So like I'm on the edge of my seat. Oh shit. It hit the post. Oh yeah, he hated it. He hated me. He hated me being in the car. He just kept looking at me like I was a fucking, like wanted me to shut up. He had the volume so loud. I was yelling at him like, are you fucking deaf? Seriously, I turned the volume down in that car yesterday 40 times, and he turned it up 41 times. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I hear you. I thought of that too, but you just drag it out. You learn to talk faster and you drag it out. You stayed 2 seconds behind the action. God, it was fucking pathetic. It was just so shitty. And Dave got a brand new car. Oh, here's another thing too. So at one point I'm like, man, what the fuck is going on in here with this audio? So I hit the sound button on his screen. It's a beautiful truck. It's a brand new F350. Is that a truck? It's a big, massive truck. Massive. And he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm looking at your audio settings. Like, it fucking sounds horrible in here. And I look, and he has the treble and the mid turned down almost all the way and the bass all the way up. I'm like, what the fuck is this? The default Cholo setting? Just all bass? He's like, I like it like that. I'm like, dude, I can't even understand what the fucking people are saying. We're not listening to Chris Cross or what's that? I want to get high. So who sings that song? So high. It's like, dude, we're listening to the football game. I fucking lowered down the bass way, and I raised the treble in the mid. I love bass. Fuck, I love base, but for crying out loud, it's a fucking football game. Sevi, does Dave make over or under $1 million a year? Dave owns 60 acres that sits directly on the 101. In between, I mean, someone eventually in his family is going to be rich as fuck. I don't know when it's going to happen, but eventually Silicon Valley's got to go that way. And when it does, I mean, sitting on one of the fucking biggest fucking corridors in the world, like in terms of goods moving up and down, like foods and people, and just like it's a crazy spot. It would be a great place for the Hells Angels to stop and do meth exchanges. Oh, Patrick Clark. When are you bringing Devin Kim back on, Sevi? She said it was great seeing you and Dave yesterday. Yeah. Oh, Cypress Hill. Yeah. He's not listening to fucking Cypress Hill. It's a fucking football game. I'd love to have her on. I love her. I fucking love her. She's so cool. She's great. I probably hugged her like 5 times yesterday. She's dope. I cannot imagine having that much poise at her age. I'd be like, get away from me, you fucking disgusting old people. She's so cool. I feel alive around her. She's cool shit. You know why she's like that too? Because she got cool parents. Her parents she got loving parents, and she's loving. Okay, that was my bit on the Miami. Oh, okay. You guys watched the UFC fight the other night? It was interesting. Manel Cape, that's a fighter. I wonder if I can find the clip. Manel Cape faggot. Let me see if I can find that. He called. Is this it? View spoiler? Oh no, this isn't. Jake Shields, Australian crowd was chanting bullshit after. They call it second homophobic slur. I don't think it. I think it's too harsh to call it homophobic. Let me see if I can find it. If I can play it for you guys. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this guy was just in a fight. By the way, this is why I don't use the word gay or faggot on this show ever. Never. Because in my opinion, the word I don't know this for certain, but in my mind, gay is just like you like the same genitalia. So if I were to say to someone like, hey, you're gay, that would mean like if I told you guys, hey, I'm gay, then you would know like that I'm going to go blow Dave after the show, right? Or he's going to blow me, right? So we're gay. And then, but if you use something like there's a song and I go, that song is gay, then you're using a derogatory way, and I don't like that. Because then the implication, explicit implication, it's not the implication, it's explicit, and the fact that something's wrong with being gay. And I don't think there's anything wrong with being gay, right? So I don't use it like that. It's the reason why I'm okay with the word retard, because it's specific. It's like, yeah, that is retarded. It's like slow, or it's broken, or it's not working properly. It just is. It is that way. But I don't like the word gay used like that, because you're trying to draw a parallel. You're putting gay people down when they don't need to be put down. How did they get drug into it? They didn't do nothing. Anyway, but the word faggot is like a direct word, like, hey, that just cuts through the chase, right? That is just fucking explicit. That something that I think that you like the same genitalia, and there's something wrong with it. You get what I'm saying? Oh, look, clock. Sevan will never completely transcend his libtard conditioning. But that's okay. Well, thank you for accepting me. I'm not sure exactly what you mean, but I'm open to it. I know. Okay. So this guy right here is pissed because this other fighter pulled out of the fight. And this is what he says.
You know why? All your teammates is a bunch of faggots.
So
I'm gonna fight you next. I'm gonna fight you next. And if you refuse again to fight me or pull out 2 weeks of the fight, I'm going to your city. I'm going to your academy. I'm gonna spar you there. I'm gonna fucking spar you there. Hey, listen. And no one gonna do anything. You know why? All your teammates is a bunch of faggots.
And then Daniel Cormier pulls it away.
I'm gonna fight you next.
And then this thing says a second homophobic slur dropped during UFC's post-fight interview. What is with Manel Cape? I wonder what homophobic means. Homophobic. Having or showing a dislike or prejudice against gay people. I think that the implication is what he's saying is like the gay people for some reason aren't good fighters, and that if you're gay, you're pussy, and that so he called him a faggot, basically saying all the guys are pussies. He's a fucking fighter. He's in the ring. It was just after the fight. Yeah, I don't know. I'm giving him I don't hate him for I can't hate him for that. I'm giving him a pass. Like if he would have said it's like it's not good, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. It's not good. It's just that he just finished a fight. He's in there. He's all fucking wound up. I mean, for all I know, that guy's fucking gay. What if we found out that guy's gay? Do gay people even use that word? Can you use that word if you're gay? Someone else called the Aussie crowd a bunch of faggots in the Yeah, I saw Lauren's retard post. I went in there and fought with people. I was having a blast in there last night. I found it crazy because my son wants to be Mr. T for fucking Halloween. Like, fuck you and your blackface shit and trying to fucking make that continuing. It's the continuous beat down, demanding that people be offended. It's just that continuous. It's like, leave it alone. One guy's in there. Imagine this. One guy in there has a fucking disabled daughter, and he wants to make sure that word, like if I had a disabled daughter, the last thing I would want is that word to be offensive. I would set the word free. Hey, no, it's okay. Call anyone you want a retard. Who cares? Who gives a fuck? Same thing if I was a black person. I would set all the words free. If I'm a Jew, I'm not letting my kids ever be offended by the word kike. There's no fucking way. Why would I strap them with that? It's fucking insanity. That's not love. That's not setting someone free. Set people fucking free, for fuck's sake. Costas Anton, 50 euros. That's awesome. A whaleboat, 51% analogy said it all. Thank you so much. I was so proud of that. God, and he did. That didn't land with him, but I was so proud of it. The rest was good diplomatic conversation. Also great asking if he's open to Hillary going on his show. Yeah, the thing is, man, it's what happens to titties. You think titties as a little boy or to feed you for sustenance in life, and as you get older, it's something completely else, different. And dude, there are literally people on the boat who are looking at titties as feeding, and other people are looking at the boat as some sort of sexual foreplay pleasure. It's that off. Imagine the difference. Breastfeeding off your mom, or fucking holding on to your wife's tits for dear life as you put it to her. It's like, it's that different on what's going on the understanding of what CrossFit is. I appreciate you appreciating that, Costas Anton. Yeah, it's wild. I watched the Atrix. I watched the Matrix like probably a year ago. I got it. It's pretty good. I like it. Yeah, here's the thing, Pool Boy. I would love it that Lauren was able to make fun of herself. I know. Hey, what she did was retarded. That's the thing. people, and I want to be like, people are like, you still have time to take this down. I'm like, God, you're a fucking bully. God, you're such a fucking asshole. You're not willing to give up anything. Do you know what I mean by give up anything? Like, why not say, just admit why it hurts you? It's so hard for me to accept that word retard because someone called me a retard because my daughter has Down syndrome, and when people call her a retard at school, it really hurts her feelings. Okay, well, explain to her that it's not a bad word. It just is what it is. Read to her the definition. Don't demand that she be offended by it. Set her free. Give her some wisdom. It's almost like none of those people have any wisdom. How do those people ever have fun if they're constantly like vulnerable to that kind of fucking attack? I don't get it. Your life must suck. You ever been around those guys who like are like concerned that other guys might be hitting on them, or like upset that some guy grabbed their ass or something? It's like, dude, you're a fucking guy. Who gives a fuck? So what if guys? Well, it's the fucking biggest compliment ever. Like, what? Hey, hi. Hey. I was just in the middle of my podcast. Other dudes hitting on you. It's like, all right, well, I'll take it. Hey, what? Yeah, I'd want. What are you doing? I'd come over right now. Okay. Oh, good. Mine are too. Good. Okay, I love it. Okay, I'm gonna hang up, put my shoes on. No, I haven't eaten. I'll do anything. You want to go to Spur or something? Okay, I love that. It's all good. Okay. Okay, I'll call you in 5 minutes anyway. Let me say bye to my friends. Okay, bye. Can you guys hear that conversation? No, I think we're going to Gales instead. We're not going to Spur. Yeah, I feel Hollywood when I do that. I feel like I'm a little cooler than you guys. Like, look, I'm on the phone with Craig. Yeah, look at me. Yeah, totally. Yeah. I do. I'm not gonna lie. I do. We heard your end. You heard my tail end. All right. Anyway, I was trying to. I wanted to be nicer to the people in Lauren's comments. I wanted to, but I just. I wish I'd have been nicer to him. Actually, I woke up this morning thinking, I could have explained it a little differently. Dude, Eric, did I see you yesterday? How come? Did you say, hey, it's me, Eric? We met at the ranch. How come I can't fucking remember seeing you? Oh, yeah, dude. You're cool as shit, dude, by the way. You're so cool. You're way more chill than I imagined. You have great energy. I loved seeing you. That was cool. I met so many fucking nice dudes back there. Nice ladies. Athletes are great. You were my last hug. Oh, was I just leaving with Dave? Was I just running out? Fuck. I wish you would have said, hey, it's me, Eric. Asshole. All right. Pool boy is so cool. Just ask him. He really is cool. He was very sweet. He was cool as shit. And I know he must be cool because I saw Dave gravitate towards him. Dave will not gravitate towards someone unless he thinks they're easy. All right, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Greg will be on the show. Thanks for everything. Sorry about I didn't do a show yesterday. Really appreciate Athena's patience. It just had a bunch of shit transpire. Greg came to town. I ended up going to that competition. Then I went out to dinner with a bunch of people. I am excited to have Athena on. She'll either be on Wednesday or Thursday. We have Amanda Barnhart, who I'm super excited about having on this week. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Love you guys. Bye-bye.